Chapter 1204. In the profound Yin world, Ning Fan flew all the way to the Palace of Repentance. Both Hua Hua and Hong Lian were suppressed there. They were suppressed, not imprisoned. Facing quasi-saint captives, Ning Fan did not dare to think that he could imprison them with his bewitching technique like he did in the past. Under his suppression, not only were their cultivation bases completely sealed, but they were also in a comatose state. They could not even wake up from their slumber. Ning Fan initially thought that it would be foolproof. However, he was wrong. These two women were too capable. They could actually use bewitching techniques to attack him while they were unconscious and their cultivation bases were sealed. At this moment, a sensual voice spread out from the Palace of Repentance, spreading across the entire profound Yin world and reaching Ning Fan's soul. It was a soul voice that was specifically targeted at Ning Fan. Only he could hear it. The soul voice was too seductive and bewitching. It sounded like moaning, panting, moaning, begging and crying. That voice seemed to be able to directly penetrate Ning Fan's soul. Clearly, it was an extremely profound bewitching technique. If it wasn't because Ning Fan had cultivated the mother relic in his body and a secret treasure like the yin-yang locket to protect himself, there was a high chance that he would be bewitched by this technique and lose his mind. You do have some skills. Ning Fan sneered and entered the Palace of Repentance, heading to the deepest cell. The moment Ning Fan arrived, Hua Hua and Hong Lian seemed to have sensed his presence and communicated with each other using their soul voice. What should we do? That stinky man really took the bait. Do we really have to use Mother Yin's plan to deal with this man? Once we lose our chastity, we will no longer have the qualifications to compete for the position of the Ant Queen. It was Hua Hua's slightly panicked soul voice. The position of the Ant Queen is secondary. When I think about using my body to please this dog man, I feel disgusted. But if we don't use this plan, what other way do we have to escape from this place? The High Priest has already said that there will not be any reinforcements for the 13 vertebrae. Other than saving ourselves, we have no other way. Have you forgotten how profound that dog man's bewitching technique is? Only God knows how many people he has plucked to cultivate such a powerful bewitching technique. Even if we don't take the initiative, he will do it to us sooner or later. Instead of doing nothing when the time comes, we might as well attack him when he is unprepared. It was Hong Lian's soul voice that was filled with anger. I understand, but can we really succeed? Hua Hua was still a little hesitant. Don't worry, no matter how powerful that dog man's charm technique is, could it be more powerful than Hua Quan's wine pool and flesh forest? Unfortunately, after this incident, you and I no longer have the qualifications to fight for the position of the Queen Ant. This hatred will not disappear. When this matter ends, I'll definitely tear that dog of a man's corpse into 10,000 pieces to vent the hatred in my heart. Red Lotus said hatefully. Hua Hua felt more confident when she thought of how powerful the wine pool and meat forest were, but she was still a little reluctant. Ning Fan was her greatest enemy. She was about to feed him with her body. How could she be willing to do so? Hua Hua and Red Lotus were suppressed in an ice prison. The moment he stepped into the ice room, Ning Fan smelled a strange aroma of wine. There was clearly no wine here, but there was a strange wine fragrance wafting out. It was truly strange, and what was even stranger was that this wine fragrance directly penetrated his soul, causing his soul to feel intoxicated. Once he was intoxicated, Ning Fan's mind became a little unclear. Fortunately, he did not completely lose his consciousness because the mother Saraira in his body began to rotate and protect its master on its own. Saraira, form is not different from emptiness, and emptiness is not different from form. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. Ning Fan seemed to have heard some Sanskrit chanting. The drunkenness that tainted his soul immediately began to fade. He never knew that the mother Saraira had such a miraculous effect. Today, when he encountered a powerful opponent using the charm technique, he finally revealed the true power of the mother Saraira. That dog man's eyes were as if he was intoxicated. Clearly, he had already fallen for the enchantment of the wine pool. Our plan will definitely succeed. Red Lotus was overjoyed. Ning Fan staggered a little as if he was really drunk. It was unknown whether he was pretending or not. He opened the prison and approached the two ladies step by step. The two ladies were sealed in the ice pillars. If he wanted to pluck them, he would first need to unseal the ice pillars. Ning Fan seemed to have fallen too deeply into the charm technique and was really impatient. He hurriedly rushed to the side of Red Lotus's seal and only unsealed the lower half of the seal. The upper half of Red Lotus's body was still unconscious. It was suspended in midair by the ice pillars while Ning Fan tore apart the armor and clothes of the lower half of her body. Then, before Ning Fan could carry out the next step, layers of illusions appeared in front of his eyes. The enemy's charm technique actually did not only contain the fragrance of the wine but also an illusion technique. Where is this place? Ning Fan did not know if he was really under the illusion technique or if he was just pretending. His eyes were filled with confusion. He looked around at the unfamiliar illusion technique environment around him as if he could not figure out where he was and who he was. It was a bridal chamber that was covered with red paper. Ning Fan, on the other hand, was dressed like a bridegroom. Inside the bridal chamber, red candles were burning and the curtains were dim. A delicate and pretty maid was holding the lantern at the bottom of the stairs. Two brides were lying on the wedding bed, Hua Hua and Red Lotus. They were wearing bright red wedding clothes and were tied to the bed with ropes. They could not move at all and remained unconscious. Well, they were not really immobilized. It seemed like Ning Fan had already untied the ropes binding Red Lotus's lower half and tore off her clothes because he was too impatient. Who am I? Who are they? Ning Fan asked in confusion. Of course, he would not ask Hua Hua and Red Lotus who were unconscious. He asked the maid who was holding the lantern. Master, these two ladies are Master's new concubines. The maid lowered her head and answered respectfully. Her clear eyes were filled with disdain towards Ning Fan. They are my new concubines? If that's the case, why are they tied up here? They shouldn't be like this on the day of their wedding. Ning Fan was puzzled. He seemed to have forgotten a lot of things as he was immersed in the world of illusion technique. That's right. The bride should not be tied up on the day of their wedding. That's too inauspicious. Master, please untie the two madams before we do the deed. The maid pleaded. Untie them, huh? Ning Fan's eyes seemed to be struggling. His expression was like he subconsciously remembered that he could not untie the two madams completely. What are you hesitating for, Master? I don't know. I just feel that it's not good to untie them. Ning Fan's expression became even more conflicted. There's nothing bad about it. Master, please listen to Hua Ju and untie them. In this world, no husband would treat his concubine like this. It's not right. Hua Ju approached Ning Fan slowly and took off her shoes. She knelt on the bed and grabbed Ning Fan's hand with her cold palm. Master, be obedient and untie the two madams. Only by untying them can you do the deed. She grabbed Ning Fan's hand and untied the ropes binding Red Lotus's upper body. Ning Fan's expression became even more perplexed. It was as if he would forget a lot of things as long as he was touched by this maid named Hua Ju. He could not remember why he had to tie the two madams up. Untying them seemed to be the right thing to do. Thus, he really began to untie the remaining ropes binding Red Lotus's upper body instead of doing the deed on her naked lower body. However, just as the ropes were untied a little, Ning Fan suddenly stopped. He turned around and looked at Hua Ju with a serious expression. No, this isn't right. What's wrong? Hua Ju's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. However, she regained her composure and asked indifferently, "Don't tell me this man has broken my illusion technique and regained his consciousness." Hua Ju was secretly worried. It shouldn't be me who listens to you. It should be you who listens to me. You are my servant. I am your master. Ning Fan suddenly turned his hand over and grabbed Hua Ju's hand. Then, he began to fondle her hand lecherously. Hua Ju's heart was filled with hatred. She wanted to withdraw her hand, but she could not do so no matter how hard she tried. Damn it. In the illusory world, my strength is actually not as great as Ning Fan's. How is this possible? This is obviously the illusory world that I control. Seeing that Ning Fan was gradually not satisfied with just touching her hand and began to fondle up her arm, Hua Ju became anxious. Master, you can't do this. Today is your wedding day. You should take care of the two madams. You can't do this to me. Why can't I? As long as I am willing, why can't I have one more concubine? You are a beggar, aren't you? Little Hua Xiao, just follow me. As long as you follow me, I will grant you a life of glory and wealth. Ning Fan acted as if he had really become a hungry master who would not be picky about his food. Stop. You dog. I told you to stop. I'm not your servant. Hua Ju was pressed on the bed by Ning Fan. Her outer robe was stripped off and her undergarment was exposed. She was so anxious that she cursed. She was not sure whether Ning Fan had seen through her illusion technique or not. Of course, it was also possible that Ning Fan's nature was like this. He was still as anxious as usual in the illusory world. She was not sure. That was why she did not dare to break the illusion technique and enchantment technique. However, she was also unwilling to lose her virginity in the illusory world. She wanted to resist and struggle, but Ning Fan's drunken mouth had already begun to bite her. She could not resist at all. This was too abnormal. Just as she was feeling anxious, another maidservant walked in with a copper basin and helped Hua Ju out of her predicament. She was a peerlessly beautiful lady. Just by standing there, Hua Ju, Hua Hua and Hong Lian all paled in comparison. She was Mother Yin, the uncrowned king of the sacred ant sect. Seeing that Hua Ju could not handle Ning Fan alone, she also entered the illusory world. As soon as she entered, the fun between Ning Fan and Hua Ju was naturally disrupted. Who are you? Who told you to come in? Ning Fan seemed to be very angry when his fun was interrupted. He casually grabbed a porcelain pillow at the side and threw it at Mother Yin. Mother Yin was shocked. She did not expect that Ning Fan would dare to attack her. She hurriedly dodged, but her head was still hit by the porcelain pillow. Immediately, blood flowed out. How dare you attack me? You're courting death. Mother Yin was instantly enraged. However, she quickly suppressed her anger. This was the dual space of enchantment technique and illusory technique that Hua Ju created. The power that she could use in this place was very little, even though she was a genuine second-level quasi-saint. Somehow, even Hua Ju could not suppress Ning Fan in this place. She was afraid that she would not be able to do so. If she really enrages Ning Fan, this scheme of hers will really end in failure. What? You're obviously dressed like a maidservant. How dare you talk to me like that? Ning Fan was enraged. Grand ritual. Elder Sister Yin quickly apologized to Master. Hua Ju also did not want her scheme to fail on the verge of success. She was obviously still being suppressed by Ning Fan, but she still tried to persuade Mother Yin to calm down. Mother Yin was also a proud and arrogant person. With her personality, even if this place was just an illusory realm, she would not allow Ning Fan to bully her. However, she had no choice. Before she succeeded, she did not want to ruin the great plan because of her anger. Thus, she gritted her teeth and lowered her noble head, apologizing. Mother Yin knows her mistake. Please forgive me, Master. Humph. Now you know your mistake? It's too late. It's impossible for Master to forgive you. Today, Master will punish all of you harshly and teach you what it means to respect your superiors. Ning Fan took out a piece of rope out of nowhere. In just a few moves, he actually tied Hua Ju up like a dumpling and threw her on the bed. Then, he got off the bed and pounced on Mother Yin barefooted. Master, what are you doing? Hua Ju was extremely anxious. Mother Yin was also very anxious. She never expected that Ning Fan could tie her up in her illusory realm. It was too abnormal. An unprecedented sense of foreboding rose in her heart. Could it be that this dog of a man was not affected by the illusory technique at all? This is impossible. She had even used a pool of wine and a forest of flesh. Beautiful Mother Yin, don't run. Let me have a taste of you. While chasing after her, Ning Fan hugged her and kissed her on the cheek. Mother Yin's face instantly turned cold. Someone as noble as her was actually violated by Ning Fan. How could she tolerate this? Get lost. As soon as Mother Yin displayed her ability, a faint, chilly wind rose around her. When the chilly wind swept past, Ning Fan felt like he was about to be blown away. However, right after that, Ning Fan also used his ability and stopped the chilly wind. The amount of power that Mother Yin could use in this illusory realm was too little. Her chilly wind was easily extinguished by Ning Fan. Seeing this, Mother Yin's expression changed greatly. It was impossible for Ning Fan, who was under an illusory technique, to use any power in this illusory realm. There was only one reason why Ning Fan could do this. He was not affected by the illusory technique at all. He was just acting. You're not under an illusory technique. This is impossible. You can actually resist the erosion of the pool of wine and the forest of flesh. Mother Yin was extremely shocked. She wanted to say something, but she could not utter the next sentence. Her mouth was blocked by Ning Fan's mouth, which reeked of alcohol. Someone as noble as her actually, she bit down furiously and broke Ning Fan's tongue. However, she was then thrown onto the bed by Ning Fan. At this moment, Ning Fan no longer had the confused look of a master. He was obviously sneering like a devil. Interesting. I didn't expect that the 4 famous flowers of the sacred ant sect are all here. Even though 2 of them are just illusions and there won't be many benefits from plucking them, it doesn't seem like there's any loss for me to be able to taste such unparalleled beauty. How dare you? You've already captured 2 of the successors of the Ant Queen of my clan. If you still dare to lay your hands on me, I will certainly grind your bones into ashes and make you unable to reincarnate forever. What are you still standing there for? The plan has already failed. Quickly undo the technique and let our souls escape from this place. Otherwise, we will be humiliated by this person. Mother Yin said angrily. I can't do it. This person's attainments in illusory techniques and bewitching techniques are far beyond mine. Besides, he even knows how to reflect the illusory technique. Before I realized it, he had already taken control of this illusory realm. You and I can't escape. Hua Chu said dejectedly. What? Mother Yin was shocked. When she realized that she could no longer count on Hua Chu, she wanted to do something. However, she could not do anything in time. Ning Fan was already pressing down on her. Something strange happened in the Light Ant clan. High Priestess Yin and Hua Chu were originally using bewitching techniques to plot against Ning Fan. For some reason, the 2 of them suddenly dismissed the experts in the main hall and sealed the main hall. As a result, none of the experts of the Light Ant clan could hear the undulating moans in the main hall. Moreover, no one knew that the 2 of them had failed in their scheme against Ning Fan. Instead, they were taken advantage of by him. Not good. Take your filthy hands away. Don't. In the main hall, Hua Chu's clothes were still intact, but she was rolling on a soft mattress to escape. Her eyes were filled with confusion as if she had fallen into an illusory technique. In the illusory realm, she was being humiliated by Ning Fan. Unable to bear the humiliation, clear tears of hatred flowed down from her eyes. Get lost. How dare you? Damn it. It hurts. Take it away. I won't allow you. I won't allow you to touch me. The High Priestess of Mother Yin was also affected by the illusory technique. She only had herself to blame. No one knew what she had experienced in the illusory realm. No one knew what kind of illusory technique the 2 of them had suffered. While Hua Chu and Mother Yin were being tortured by the illusory technique, Hua Hua and Hong Lian were in an even worse state. They were suffering the consequences of their own actions. In the Palace of Repentance, Ning Fan had already plucked them countless times. Moreover, he had also obtained tremendous benefits from each plucking. The medicinal effect of the ant seed soup had long been exhausted. It doesn't matter. Every time this happened, Ning Fan would fly out of the profound Yin world in a flash and drink another 1 to 200 bowls of the ant seed soup. After that, he would turn around and continue plucking them. Plucking a quasi-saint realm expert was not an easy task. With the difference in cultivation level between Ning Fan and a quasi-saint realm expert, it was even more impossible for him to finish plucking them in one go. Instead, he needed to pluck them step by step. 1 day passed. 2 days passed. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. To Mother Yin, Hua and Hong Lian, this half a month could be considered as torture. The only difference was that the first two women were only suffering from mental torture while the latter two were suffering from physical torture. They had long been awakened by Ning Fan. Their tears of regret and humiliation had already dried up. It was unknown when Ning Fan had implanted the child relic into the two women's bodies. The child relic was just too heaven-defying. It could subtly change a person's feelings, causing a woman who hated Ning Fan initially to fall in love with him. The child relic could affect a person's feelings. In the past, Ning Fan would only plant the child relic in his women and would never use it to harm the common people. However, it was different this time. Both Hua and Hong Lian were his enemies. There was no need for Ning Fan to be merciful to his enemies. He wanted to have absolute control over these two women. Even though the two women's cultivation bases had dropped to the quasi-saint realm because of him, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Even though their cultivation bases were no longer at the quasi-saint realm, their physical bodies were still at the quasi-saint realm. If he plucked them from time to time, it would still bring him great benefits. Under the influence of the child relic, they obviously wanted to cut Ning Fan into 1,000 pieces, but they could not really bring themselves to do so. Moreover, as time went by and the number of times he plucked them increased, they could not help but develop a good impression of Ning Fan. They actually developed a good impression of the enemy who humiliated them. The child relic was too terrifying. This half a month was the most shocking half a month that old ancestor Leisha had ever experienced. In just half a month, Ning Fan's cultivation base improved tremendously every single day. That speed of improvement left him dumbfounded and in disbelief. His magic power broke through 14,900 tribulations, 15,000 tribulations, 15,200 tribulations, 15,400 tribulations, 16,000 tribulations, 17,000 tribulations. The speed of Ning Fan's magic power increase was just too fast. One should know that after 10,000 tribulations, it would be extremely difficult for a cultivator to increase their magic power. However, Ning Fan's magic power had increased by more than 2,000 tribulations in just half a month. Such speed was simply beyond old ancestor Leisha's understanding. Could it be that this kid plucked both Hong Lian and Hua? However, even if he plucked them, it should not be possible for his cultivation base to improve so quickly. How could there be such a powerful plucking technique in this world? Even Great Emperor Ancient Chaos Yin-Yang transformation did not seem to have such a miraculous effect. What old ancestor Leisha did not know was that after Ning Fan obtained the inheritance of the reverse relic, another bewitching technique grandmaster, his attainments in bewitching technique had already surpassed Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. It was not strange at all for him to have such an effect. The relationship between the Dao Hun clan and the ancient demon clan was like that of Yin and Yang. Because of that, when Ning Fan plucked two quasi-saints this time, the one who benefited the most was Gu Yao's cultivation base. His cultivation base rose to the peak of the 5 tribulations realm in one go. One more step and he would be at the immortal emperor realm. Unfortunately, there seemed to be a huge threshold in the immortal emperor realm. Even after plucking two quasi-saints, Ning Fan still could not break through this bottleneck. In the end, Gu Yao's cultivation base could only stay at this level. Unlike Gu Yao's skyrocketing cultivation base, Gu Yao's cultivation base did not improve much after plucking them this time. The majority of the gains were taken away by Gu Yao's cultivation base. As a result, the strongest cultivation base among Ning Fan's 4 elements became Gu Yao's cultivation base, which was at the peak immortal king realm. The total amount of his magic power finally rose to 17,000 tribulations. In terms of the total amount of magic power, Ning Fan was enough to defeat most of the first-level quasi-saints in the Dharma ending era. However, in terms of the purity of his magic power, Ning Fan felt a little awkward. After drinking more than 1,400 bowls of the soup, the purity of his magic power finally broke through to the 5th tribulation realm. However, there was still a long way to go before it reached the 6th tribulation realm. Unfortunately, he had already finished drinking the soup. If he wanted to quickly increase the purity of his magic power, he would have to think of another way. Brother Ning, what exactly have you been doing in the past half a month? I'm afraid your strength has increased by a huge margin. I actually feel a hint of pressure when I stand in front of you. Old ancestor Lei Zhe asked enviously. Ning Fan just smiled and did not answer him. How should I answer him? Should I tell him that I've been busy having sex day and night for the past half a month? It's not appropriate to tell others about such a private matter, right? Since he had already used up all the ant seeds, he could no longer improve the purity of his magic power by staying here any longer. Thus, Ning Fan already planned to leave. However, at this moment, the soft mud monster made a request in a weak voice. Brother Hero, can you do me a small favor? A very, very small favor. What favor? Steal something. Steal what? The soft mud monster carefully activated a soundproof barrier and whispered to Ning Fan. Steal merit. After this is done, we'll split it 50-50. Steal merit? Ning Fan was stunned. He did not understand. You get 60% and I get 40%. The soft mud monster became anxious. She thought that her brother Hero was unwilling to do it. 73. 82. 91 should be fine, right? All right. You win. You're my brother Hero after all. You can take it all. Just leave enough merit points for me to break the curse. I've had enough of the mud curse on my body. Ning Fan still could not figure out what the soft mud monster wanted to do. However, there was one thing that Ning Fan understood. His little mud had been cursed and turned into mud. He needed merit points to break the curse. As for him, he needed to help little mud steal merit points. Are you going to help me or not? Aren't you her hero brother now? So, the soft mud monster began to whine. Speak normally and I can consider it. Little Mud had cooked so much ant seed soup for him. He did not mind helping it out a little. At the same time, Mother Yin and Hua Kun, who were far away in the 12th level of the Earth Abyss, finally broke free from Ning Fan's illusion technique. The two of them wanted to kill Ning Fan. They wanted to tear him into pieces. They wanted to chop that bastard who claimed to be their master and took their maidservants by force into minced meat and feed them to the dogs. Reporting to the high priest. There's a cultivator from the illusion world outside the hall asking for an audience. While the two of them were fuming inside the hall, a report suddenly came from outside the hall. Who is it? Mother Yin asked coldly. She was in a bad mood. How could she speak in a friendly tone? It's the Taoist of the water sect, Fu Su Chen. Fu Su Chen? I've never heard of it. Ask him to get lost. Mother Yin directly ordered them to leave. But what? Before Mother Yin could ask about the details, she suddenly heard a cold snort coming from outside the hall. The power of that snort actually shattered the protective formation of the Hall of the Light Ant Clan. Seeing this scene, Mother Yin and Hua Kun were shocked. Then, they saw two rude figures barging into the hall. Junior Fu Su Chen greets the High Priest of the Holy Ant Sect and Miss Hua Kun. Fu Su Chen cupped his fists in a graceful manner. His handsome face always carried a smile as if he was not the one who barged into the hall. Standing behind Fu Su Chen was the stone puppet Immortal Stone, who had a cultivation base at the Quasi-Saint realm. Immortal Stone raised his nose to the sky and looked extremely arrogant. The person who destroyed the formation of the hall with just a snort was obviously him. It turns out that the Quasi-Saint of the Water Sect has arrived. Please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. Mother Yin and Hua Kun exchanged glances and saw the joy in each other's eyes. If it was during normal times, Mother Yin would definitely be enraged when someone barged into the Holy Ant Sect. However, it was different today. She was just worried that she could not enter the 13 vertebrae to kill Ning Fan. The people from the Water Sect could be her helper and enter the 13 vertebrae as outsiders. In that case, she did not want to pursue the matter of them offending her. Stop talking nonsense to Grandpa Immortal Stone. Hurry up and return the heaven-battling jade umbrella in your hands. That belongs to our Water Sect. You are not allowed to touch it. Master has ordered us to come to the Earth Abyss this time for 2 missions. One is to help little Daozi and Bei Xiaoman improve their relationship. The other is to make a deal with the Light Ant clan and take back the heaven-battling Jade Umbrella. If either of these two things are not done, I, your grandfather, will have to bear the consequences. If you are sensible, quickly hand over the heaven-battling Jade Umbrella. If you don't, let's have a fight. Immortal Stone said arrogantly. He was just a first-level quasi-saint. How dare he be so rude and unreasonable to Mother Yin, who was a second-level quasi-saint? How brainless! Considering that he was just a stone puppet, it was understandable that his intelligence was low. However, Mother Yin and Hua Kun obviously would not forgive Immortal Stone's rudeness just because of that. Fu Su Chen's expression changed drastically. He did not expect that Immortal Stone would still be so arrogant in the territory of the Light Ant clan. He immediately glared at Immortal Stone. Unknowingly, Immortal Stone, who was acting like a king just a moment ago, immediately shut his mouth obediently after Fu Suchen glared at him as if he had something on him. Mother Inmu's expression immediately became somewhat gloomy. Immortal Stone was so rude. If it was in the past, she would definitely teach him a lesson. However, once she thought about the 13 vertebrae, she was a little shaken. She thought that it would not be too late to teach Immortal Stone a lesson after this matter was over. Thus, in an instant, she squeezed out a small smile and diverted the trouble to them. Are you two here for the heaven-battling Jade Umbrella? This umbrella is of great significance to our water sect. Since our sect has found out the whereabouts of this umbrella, we must retrieve it no matter what, Fu Suchen said. Even if we have to snatch it by force, we still have to retrieve it? Mother Yin's phoenix eyes narrowed. The enormous aura of a second-level quasi-saint pressed down like the sky. After being suppressed by this aura, the arrogant Immortal Stone's expression changed drastically. Fear appeared in his eyes. On the other hand, Fu Suchen seemed to have a secret treasure to protect himself. Even though he was just an immortal king, his expression did not change at all. He smiled faintly and said, "Great priest, you must be joking. Of course, we won't snatch it by force. My sect will give us a sufficient reward in exchange for this umbrella. Of course, if Great Priest insists on refusing, it won't be pleasant when my master comes personally." Fu Suchen's master was a second-level titled quasi-saint. Mother Yin could look down on Fu Suchen, but she could not look down on the people behind him. Of course, she was not really afraid of them. The Light Ant clan was not even afraid of the Light clan. Why would they be afraid of the water sect? Mother Yin's expression did not show it, but she was sneering inwardly. The people of the water sect actually came for the heaven-battling Jade Umbrella. What a coincidence! It seems like these two people are willing to enter the 13 vertebrae to kill Ning Fan without her purposeful provocation. The heaven-battling Jade Umbrella is no longer in our hands. After a long while, Mother Yin spoke again. Impossible! Subconsciously, Fu Suchen did not believe it. However, when he saw Mother Yin's expression did not seem to be lying, he immediately took out a golden compass from his storage pouch and carefully measured it. As soon as he did, Fu Suchen's expression turned ugly. Mother Yin did not lie to him. The heaven-battling Jade Umbrella has really changed owners. Great Priest, may I ask where the heaven-battling Jade Umbrella is now? If Great Priest is willing to tell me its whereabouts, I am willing to give you a gift as repayment. Fu Suchen said with a bitter smile. Humph, there's no need for a gift. As for the whereabouts of the heaven-battling Jade Umbrella, I won't tell you. Not long ago, my Light Ant clan was robbed. The heaven-battling Jade Umbrella was stolen by a thief. If you want to know the whereabouts of this umbrella, you have to help my clan with some matters. This is the exchange. Chapter 1205. Rain suddenly fell on the 13 vertebrae. It had nothing to do with Ning Fan. It was caused by the weather in the 13 vertebrae. It was not an ordinary rain. If he had to describe it, it was more like the acid secreted by ants. If it was an ordinary acid rain, Ning Fan would not be afraid. However, this acid rain was secreted by the world in the main spine of the ant. Therefore, even with Ning Fan's physical strength, he did not dare to be drenched by the rain. Instead, he held a jade umbrella and walked in the drizzle. That umbrella was the heaven-battling jade umbrella that Ning Fan obtained after killing the light ant and fusing with a quasi-saint realm expert. It was an innate mid-grade item. It could increase the user's offense and defense. At the same time, it was also a rare titled weapon of a rainmaster. When he held the umbrella in his hand, a faint feeling of rain blew against his face. When the umbrella was opened, immortal light turned into thousands of strands of silk ribbons, covering Ning Fan within it. The drizzle from the 13 vertebrae could not fall on Ning Fan at all. Ning Fan held the umbrella and walked alone in the drizzle. His pace did not seem fast, but his body was like a ghost, flickering on the bloody ground. He seemed to be searching for something in the 13 vertebrae. Sometimes, he would stop and take out a map covered in mud from his storage pouch. After studying it carefully, he would keep the map and continue walking. Why was Ning Fan searching for something in the 13 vertebrae alone? It was a long story. The sludge monster was too tired. She had cooked 1,400 bowls of ant soup for Ning Fan. Her mental strength was exhausted. Hence, even though she was the one who asked Ning Fan for help, she only gave him a map of the 13 vertebrae. Then, she ran to Ning Fan's profound Yin world and slept soundly. Old ancestor Lei Zhe was too much of a burden. Even though he was a titled quasi-saint realm expert, he could not be of much use. Instead, he was severely injured and it was difficult for him to even move. Old ancestor Lei Zhe accepted it and gave up. He felt that he probably did not have the qualifications to protect Ning Fan anymore. Instead, he needed Ning Fan's protection. Thus, he finally went back to his Wind Count's pouch to heal his injuries. Wind Count's pouch, on the other hand, was passed to Ning Fan, meaning that he should hold the pouch and carry him on his journey so that he could save some energy. Of course, it was not a bad idea to lend this pouch to Ning Fan temporarily. Never mind. Everyone should go and rest. As expected, it's better for Ning Fan's team to be disbanded. Ning Fan might as well bring Aphrodite and the others back to the profound Yin world to rest. It was enough for him to help the sludge monster steal merit points alone. Ning Fan began to move on his own to search for the 14th vertebra, which was also the entrance to the 14th level of the Earth Abyss. With the help of the map, Ning Fan arrived at his destination after 1 hour. In front of him was a towering four-fingered mountain covered in talismans. According to the introduction of the map, the entrance to the 14th level was sealed under this four-fingered mountain. From afar, Mount Four Fingers looked like the claws of a bird. The peak of the mountain was filled with immortal mist, and there were illusory figures of immortal cranes flying back and forth. Little Mud said that the merit points she wants to steal are located in the 15th level of the Earth Abyss. From the 13th level onwards, if one wants to enter the lower levels, he or she will have to defeat the sealed true spirits of each level. Ning Fan was secretly vigilant. He held the umbrella and approached the four-fingered mountain step by step. The moment he reached a distance of 1,000 zhang, a ray of divine light suddenly shot up to the sky and turned into a gigantic shadow of a winged bird. It looked down at Ning Fan, who was the size of a grain of rice with its emotionless eyes. Of course, the size of a grain was relative to its enormous body. This wind bird was just a half-saint realm cultivator and it was not a living being. However, the feeling it gave Ning Fan was not any weaker than a first-level quasi-saint in the last realm. According to the sludge monster, this half-saint wind bird was a great ferocious demon in the true world when it was alive. Unfortunately, it offended omniscient old man and was killed by him. Its true spirit was refined into the mountain spirit of this mountain. And get lost. The 14th level isn't a place you can go. This wind bird has quite a bad temper. The first thing it opened its mouth was to mock Ning Fan, calling him an ant and asking him to get lost. Ning Fan smiled faintly. He could roughly imagine the cause of death of this wind bird. When this unlucky bird met omniscient old man when it was alive, it probably looked down on his nascent soul realm cultivation base and mocked him. That's why it died. A pitiful bird must have some hateful points. The ancients were right. If you don't get lost, you will die. Immemorial Yin Wind. Quick! That half-saint wind bird was enraged by Ning Fan's disregard. It opened its mouth and breathed out billowing Yin Wind. This wind was quite famous in the true world. Ordinary quasi-saints would not dare to face it head-on. If they were not careful, even a first-level quasi-saint might be sucked away or injured by this Yin wind. It was extremely powerful. With Ning Fan's eyesight, how could he not see the power of this wind? Within this Yin wind, countless transparent runes were flickering and the suction force was endless. Even with Ning Fan's strength, he could not stand steadily and was almost sucked away by this Yin wind. What a familiar wind. It's the same type of wind that Mother Yin has. Ning Fan had forcefully occupied Mother Yin for half a month in the illusory realm. He was very familiar with the chi of wind on her body. If he is sucked away by this wind, even though Ning Fan was confident that he would not die, he could not guarantee that he would not be injured by this wind. That would not be good. Senior Lei Zhe might not be of much use, but his wind pouch is somewhat useful. Since old ancestor Lei Zhe had lent Ning Fan the pouch, Ning Fan naturally would not let this treasure sleep. Now that he was facing this wind bird, it was the perfect time for Feng Bo's pouch to show off its might. Thus, Ning Fan held the umbrella with one hand and calmly opened Feng Bo's pouch with the other, sucking away all the wind that the wind bird breathed out. Everything has its vanquisher. No matter how strong the wind bird was, it could not harm Ning Fan with its wind technique. It's impossible. What kind of pouch is this? Why is it so powerful? Immemorial Yin wind, rise again. More immemorial Yin wind was breathed out. Then, it was sucked away by Ning Fan again. Again. Immemorial Yin wind. 10 times the speed. Again. Immemorial Yin wind. 100 times the speed. This can't be real. Immemorial Yin wind. Immemorial Yin wind. Immemorial Yin wind. 1,000 times the speed. The wind bird could not remember how many times it had attacked Ning Fan. It was unwilling to admit it, but it had to admit that its Yin wind really could not harm Ning Fan at all. It had lost without any anger. Despicable little fellow. You are qualified to enter the 14th floor. The wind bird no longer dared to fight Ning Fan. More than half of the immemorial Yin wind in its body had been taken away by Ning Fan. For some unknown reason, the Yin wind that was taken away could not be retrieved at all. All of them had become Ning Fan's spoils of war. It was really detestable. However, it only knew the immemorial Yin wind. Since it was countered by that move, it could not do anything to Ning Fan anymore. It could only admit defeat. Thank you for letting me win. Seeing that the other party really let him go, Ning Fan was happy to save himself some trouble. As for the immemorial Yin wind that was taken away, he did not really care about it. He was not a wind cultivator anyway. What was the use of that wind? Anyway, it was the wind that was collected from old ancestor Lei Zhe's pouch. He might as well just give it to him as the interest for borrowing this treasure. As the wind bird admitted defeat, the Four Fingers Mountain moved away on its own, revealing the sealed passageway. Ning Fan advanced along the passageway and soon he arrived at the 14th floor of the Earth Abyss. At the same time, old ancestor Lei Zhe, who was recuperating in the world of the wind pouch, was suddenly overjoyed. This is actually the immemorial Yin wind. I just lent my pouch to younger brother Ning for a short while and he actually absorbed so much immemorial Yin wind for me. What a terrifying amount. If I can absorb all of this Yin wind, not only will my injuries be completely healed as a titled wind cultivator, but my cultivation base will also improve tremendously. My lucky star. Younger brother Ning is really my lucky star. I have been stuck at the bottleneck for millions of years and my cultivation base has not improved at all. Younger brother Ning, you are really a good person. Fu Suchen seemed to have reached some kind of deal with the Light Ant clan. Eventually, he arrived at the entrance of the 13 vertebrae under the lead of the experts of the Light Ant clan. He crossed the bloodline gate and entered the world of flesh and blood within the 13 vertebrae. The immortal stone that Fu Suchen had brought along with him also entered the 13 vertebrae. He held a large umbrella magic treasure to shield Fu Suchen from the rain. The corrosive acid rain in this place was too strong. He did not dare to let Fu Suchen get hurt. Otherwise, he would definitely be punished. The immortal stone was very angry. He was a high and mighty puppet of the water faction. He could hold the umbrella for little Taoist, but he was not willing to work for the Light Ant clan. Why should he help the Light Ant clan to catch the thief? Even if this was to find the heaven-battling jade umbrella, he was still very unhappy. Little Taoist, why did you compromise with the Light Ant clan? They have gone too far. We are already very aggrieved to work for them, but they still don't trust us. They actually used a secret technique to cut off half of your primordial spirit and used it as a hostage. That is a primordial spirit. How could you give it to someone so easily? The immortal stone said angrily. If I didn't compromise like this, how could I gain their trust and enter this place to search for the whereabouts of the heaven-battling jade umbrella? Master said that the 13th level of the Earth Abyss is the forbidden area of the Light Ant clan. Not to mention outsiders like us, even the members of the Light Ant clan are greatly restricted when they enter this place. You and I are just outsiders, so it is not surprising that they have a backup plan. However, I did not expect that they would dare to cut off half of my primordial spirit and use it as a hostage. This is simply too much. If the Light Ant clan wasn't so strong, I would definitely settle this score with them. Speaking of which, I am more concerned about the secret technique they used to cut off my primordial spirit. They actually managed to cut off half of my primordial spirit without harming my primordial spirit. It must be a secret technique of the origin world. Fu Suchen's face was slightly pale, and his expression was gloomy and cold. Half of his primordial spirit was cut off and left in the hands of the Light Ant clan as a hostage. Even though he was not injured, his aura was still a little weak. He had a trace of hatred towards the Light Ant clan and had to endure it in his heart. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's think about how to catch that thief. I don't know where the thief who stole the heaven-battling jade umbrella is hiding in the 13th level. Little Taoist, why don't you take out the heaven-battling jade umbrella's marking compass and check the umbrella's location? The immortal stone said. Yes, I was planning to do that. Fu Suchen endured the feeling of weakness in his body and took out the golden compass to confirm the location of the heaven-battling jade umbrella. When he saw the jade green light spot on the compass, Fu Suchen revealed a satisfied smile. It seemed that the woman from the Light Ant clan did not lie. The heaven-battling jade umbrella was really here. However, immediately, Fu Suchen could not smile anymore. The jade green light spot on the compass suddenly moved. According to the compass, it was actually moving towards the deeper level of the Earth Abyss. Damn it! That thief is hiding in the 14th level. Little Taoist, what should we do now? The stinky woman from the Light Ant clan only allowed us to enter the 13th level and strictly ordered us not to enter the 14th level. Otherwise, she will make a move on Little Taoist's primordial spirit. The immortal stone was very anxious. What are you afraid of? I have a secret treasure to conceal the heavenly secrets. If you don't tell us and I don't tell you, who will know that we have been to the lower level? Moreover, the 13th level itself seems to have the magical effect of concealing the heavenly secrets. This makes it even more convenient for us to act. Master has always been very interested in the secret of the Light Ant clan. If we can sneak into the 14th level and peek into the great secret of the Light Ant clan, Master will definitely reward us greatly when we return. Fu Suchen sneered and said, he did not take the promise to the Light Ant clan to heart at all. Ha! Let's do it. We will sneak into the 14th level and peek into the secret of the Light Ant clan. The immortal stone was very excited when he heard that he could take revenge on the Light Ant clan. Wrong. Not us. You will sneak into the 14th level alone. The 14th level is very dangerous. My cultivation level is not high, and I have temporarily lost half of my primordial spirit. If I enter the dangerous place rashly and something happens to me, can you bear the responsibility? Fu Suchen said coldly. All right. When we arrive at the entrance of the 14th level, Little Taoist will stay here. This old man will enter the 14th level alone to catch the little thief. The immortal stone's expression was not very good, but he still smiled apologetically to Fu Suchen. A dignified quasi-saint living like a dog was really sullen. With a compass, the two of them quickly arrived at the Four-Finger Mountain. When he saw the magnificent immortal chi of the Four-Finger Mountain soaring into the sky, the immortal stone was instantly inspired to write a poem. Good mountain. Good Four-Finger Immortal Mountain. I want to recite a poem for this scenery. Good Four-Finger Mountain, damn it, not bad. Living on the immortal mountain, I will also sit down. Bright moonlight in front of the bed, I will drink rice soup. I will drink a big bowl, urinate on my crotch at night. Ha! Delightful! Delightful! Little Taoist, what do you think of this old man's poem? This poem seems a little. Fu Suchen did not know how to evaluate it. Suddenly, the Four-Finger Mountain shone with divine light and an illusory giant bird appeared in the clouds. Stop fooling around. I didn't expect the entrance of the 14th level to be guarded by a mountain spirit. Windbird? What a rare demon species. Moreover, it seems to have cultivated a true spirit. Unfortunately, it is only a quasi-saint. It is not worth mentioning. Senior Immortal Stone, it is up to you. I will give you half an hour to kill this bird. Fu Suchen said coldly. Easy. A mere quasi-saint dares to block my way? You are really courting death. I will let you see the power of Grandpa Immortal Stone. When Immortal Stone saw the enemy, he immediately lost the mood to write a poem. He handed the big oil umbrella to Fu Suchen and returned to his usual posture. He waved his hand, and a giant green stone sword appeared in his hand. He carried the giant sword and flew into the sky, drenched in the curtain of rain. He was about to kill this wind bird. This immortal stone has a terrifying physical defense. The corrosive power of the Ant Lord's acid rain was extremely strong. Even Ning Fan had to be wary of it. However, he was not afraid at all. He used his physical body to resist the acid rain and remained unscathed. It was truly amazing. Logically speaking, with his powerful strength, he should have a great advantage in dealing with a quasi-saint wind bird. However, one should not forget that this wind bird was not a quasi-saint in the degenerate era but a quasi-saint of the true world. The strength of this bird could not be measured by the standard of the degenerate era. Instead, it should be measured by the standard of the ancient Chaos Great Emperor's era. In the end, Immortal Stone was still too careless. In that era, immortal emperors and quasi-saints were not necessarily weak. It was highly possible for them to kill ancient great cultivators. You are just a stone puppet. How dare you be so reckless? Do you think you can defeat me like that kid in the pocket in front of you? Do you think you can withstand my immortal ancient Yin wind? The immortal ancient Yin wind, 1,000 times speed, rose. With Ning Fan's lesson, this time, the wind bird used its strongest wind speed. As the immortal ancient Yin wind swept across the sky, Immortal Stone's expression changed greatly. He turned around and ran. It was not that he did not know how powerful the immortal ancient Yin wind was. Because of that, he immediately became terrified when he saw the immortal ancient Yin wind's chi. This immortal ancient Yin wind was not a killing technique but a subduing technique. Moreover, it was the kind of technique that could subdue enemies that were stronger than him. Immortal Stone was confident that he would not be killed by this Yin wind. However, he did not think that he could withstand the suction force of this wind. As expected, with just one move, the wind bird forcefully took away the Immortal Stone and brought him into the Yin wind world that it had refined for many years. On the contrary, Fu Suchen was alert. At the moment when the immortal ancient Yin wind approached him, he suddenly turned into water droplets and sprinkled on the ground. He mixed with the rainwater and became indistinguishable. Rain escaping technique. It was the water sect's most famous escaping technique. The speed of escaping was not fast, but it could be used to avoid a lot of divine abilities that would kill in a single strike. It was quite powerful. But, little Taoist, why are you running alone? Why didn't you bring me along? It hurts so much. The wind blades in this damn bird's Yin wind world are so powerful. Damn it. I am not its enemy who killed the bird. Why did it try to kill me as soon as it saw me? It didn't even give me a chance to slow down. The immortal stone's miserable shriek came from the empty sky, which was very frightening. Humph! A bunch of ants. You guys are not comparable to that pocket brat. You are too weak. This time, I will only teach you a small lesson. If you dare to break into the 14th floor again, I will take your dog life. The winged bird snorted disdainfully. It dispersed its phantom body and went back to sleep in the Four-Finger Mountain. After an unknown period of time, the space above the Four-Finger Mountain was suddenly shattered. Then the immortal stone, who was covered in blood, escaped from it. He was both shocked and frightened. Powerful. Too powerful. This was the power of the immortal ancient Yin wind. Unless one's cultivation was much higher than the wind controller, one would not be able to resist the suction force of this wind. The immortal stone ran all the way out of the Four-Finger Mountain before he stopped. He wiped the blood and rainwater off his face and heaved a sigh of relief. What should we do now, little Taoist? With our ability, we are not able to resist the immortal ancient Yin wind. We can't break into the 14th floor of the earth abyss. The immortal stone said unwillingly. He was obviously talking to the empty air, but there was a strange response. Humph! What else can we do? Let's just wait here. I don't believe that the little thief won't come up after going down to the 14th floor. He will definitely come up again. The unscathed Fu Su-chen appeared with the oil umbrella. It seemed that he was not hurt by the immortal ancient Yin wind at all. However, his complexion seemed to be weaker than before. Obviously, using the rain escape technique to dodge that level of attack was very taxing on him. It was not as easy as it looked. Sigh, this wind bird is too powerful. Even this old man couldn't resist the Yin wind of this bird. How did that thief kill his way to the 14th floor? Could it be that he is a second-level quasi-saint? The immortal stone was still somewhat dissatisfied and kept muttering. Senior is not a match for the wind bird because you don't have a way to restrain the Yin wind. That thief is different. He probably has a way to deal with it. Senior, don't think too highly of that thief. If that thief is really a second-level quasi-saint, why would he be afraid of the light ant tribe and hide here? He should be able to come and go as he pleases in the earth abyss. He would have already escaped without a trace. It's also our fault for not preparing well in advance. If we had asked Master for 1 or 2 ways to restrain the Yin wind when we left the sect, we wouldn't be in such a difficult situation. The Count of Wind and Master of Rain are originally one family. Master has many ways to restrain the Yin wind. Fu Su-chen said regretfully. That's right. How could that thief be a second-level quasi-saint? There are only a few second-level quasi-saints in the entire northern heaven. There are only 10 of them. There is no thief that Grandpa Immortal Stone can't settle with 1 punch. If there is, then I'll use 2 punches. The Immortal Stone laughed heartily, recovering its arrogance with its nose pointed towards the sky. It laughed loudly while drenched in the acid rain, just like a fool. Ning Fan did not know about Fu Su-chen's unfortunate encounter. He also did not know that old ancestor Lei Zhe was feeling happy about the unexpected harvest of the immemorial Yin wind. He held the jade umbrella and arrived at the 14th floor of the earth abyss. What he saw was a boundless ocean. This ocean was not blue. Instead, it was pure and colorless. It emitted a dim light. It was a sea of light. Ning Fan was not surprised to see such a sea of light in the territory of the Light Clan. He took out the map and looked at it. The path to the 15th floor seemed to be difficult. Many marks were marked on the map of the 14th floor. Each of them had a different color. They represented the different levels of danger in each area. According to the soft sludge monster, a part of the flesh of the Lord Ant that was suppressed had developed its own consciousness and evolved into an independent life form. It lived in this sea of light as a sea beast and was extremely difficult to deal with. It would be best if he could sneak to the 15th floor. If he encountered any sea beasts along the way, he would run away if he could and avoid fighting them if he could. After all, these sea beasts were so troublesome that even omniscient old man had a headache. He wished he could kill all of them. However, these sea beasts were almost immortal. He could only suppress them but not destroy them. So there are a group of undead creatures living here. Interesting. They better not provoke me. Otherwise, Ning Fan smiled. He held the umbrella and flew close to the surface of the sea. It was still raining. When the raindrops fell on the surface of the sea, it was as if countless illusions were breaking and vanishing on the surface of the water. Fate was just so annoying. The more you don't want to get into trouble, the more trouble will come to you. Ning Fan obviously did not want to pay attention to the sea beasts in this place. He even purposely chose the path that was less dangerous. However, his arrival still attracted the attention of some sea beasts. A sea turtle with Immortal King Realm cultivation base was hiding under the water. It had been tailing Ning Fan for an unknown period of time. In order not to alert the snake, Ning Fan did not fly at a fast speed. It was to reduce his presence. However, he was still targeted by the enemy. What else could he do? Get lost. Ning Fan snorted coldly and shouted at the sea turtle. That sea turtle seemed to be used to acting like a tyrant. It was confident that its undead creatures were strong. Thus, it did not put Ning Fan's threat in its eyes. Not only did it not retreat, but it also let out a strange roar and called for its companions. Not long after, more sea snakes, fishes and sea monsters surrounded them from all directions. All of them had strange appearances. That sea turtle was the first among them. When it leaped out of the water, its gigantic body was like a small island that appeared out of nowhere. It was too arrogant. The more Ning Fan ignored it, the more it thought that Ning Fan was weak and easy to bully. Thus, it spat out an arrow of water, trying to take Ning Fan's life. How troublesome! Ning Fan frowned. He held the umbrella with one hand and summoned the ocean-defying sword with the other. With one sword strike, he shattered the arrow of water. With another sword strike, he killed that arrogant sea turtle. So what if it's an Immortal King Realm expert? It can block the might of Ning Fan's sword strike. So what if it's an undead creature? When Ning Fan's sword contained the life-slaying sword intent, this level of undead was just like sending its head to its death. The island-like sea turtle was split into two halves. Then, its remaining body was detonated by the Heaven Goyu. Its blood dyed the sea of light red. The sword light split the surface of the sea like two water curtains retreating to both sides. Then, the crack in the sea closed up. This group of evil creatures should know how strong I am now. Ning Fan muttered to himself and continued moving forward. However, he was wrong. His action of killing the Immortal King Realm sea turtle not only failed to intimidate the sea beasts in this place, but it also aroused their anger. The sea beasts here were transformed from the flesh and blood of the Lord Ant. They were born with the arrogance of a saint. Of course, they did not have the strength to match a saint. However, that did not stop them from being arrogant. Ning Fan dared to kill a sea turtle, which was equivalent to waving his sword at a saint. How could the sea beasts who claimed to be saints tolerate such provocation? Roar! More sea beasts rushed over from all directions. The atmosphere on the 14th level, which was originally heavy, became incomparably noisy. Do you really have to court death? All right then. I will put aside the matter of Little Mud and collect a few gourds of blood spirits first. An immortal venerate realm sea fish that was arrogant broke through the waves and attacked Ning Fan with its corrosive poison. Then, Ning Fan directly swallowed its poison into his stomach. Obviously, this level of corrosive poison could not harm Ning Fan at all. Then, he swung his sword and killed the immortal venerate realm sea fish. His sword chi swept across 3,000 li. Many weak and small sea beasts were cut into pieces by the sword chi before they could even get close to him. The red name of Heaven's Will above Ning Fan's head became even redder. It was as if the more people he killed, the redder the name would become. An immortal Emperor Realm sea centipede with sharp blades growing all over its body charged at Ning Fan. However, so what if he was an immortal Emperor Realm cultivator? With a single slash of his sword, half of the body of the immortal Emperor Realm centipede exploded. The reason why the remaining half of its body was still intact was not because Ning Fan failed to kill it, but because he deliberately left it with half of its life. He must capture an immortal Emperor Realm cultivator alive. Only by refining a living body could he create a gourd of blood spirits. If he kills it, he would only be able to create an undying ghost soldier. These two methods could not be carried out at the same time. The unlucky sea centipede was sucked away by the black wind gourd. The life-severing sword intent in its body was wreaking havoc, making it unable to mobilize its magic power to resist Ning Fan's capture. Fortunately, it was an undead creature. It was not an easy task to turn it into a gourd of blood spirits. Unfortunately, Ning Fan then infused the life-severing sword intent into the gourd, giving it the power to kill undead creatures. This immortal emperor centipede was the first blood spirit that Ning Fan caught today. However, it would not be the last. Ning Fan counted the number of sea beasts in this place. There were quite a number of immortal emperor realm sea beasts. He had more than enough to make 10 low-grade gourd blood spirits. After a long time, Ning Fan's body was covered in blood. He held the heaven-battling jade umbrella that was also stained with blood and could not be melted by the rain. Then, he arrived at the entrance of the 15th floor. Behind him was a sea of floating corpses. The undead creatures that gave omniscient old man a headache were all massacred by Ning Fan. There was an island floating on the surface of the sea in front of him. There was an immortal mountain on the island. It also had the appearance of a four-fingered mountain. It looked like a crane's claw that pierced the sky. It carried an air of arrogance as if it was looking down on the entire world. When Ning Fan arrived, the mountain spirit of the mountain immediately appeared, trying to stop Ning Fan's path to the 15th floor. It was a half-saint realm mountain elf. At the same time, it was also an undead creature. Therefore, it was not sealed here after being killed by omniscient old man. It was sealed here with its life. Similar to the wind bird, it was also a living creature of the true world. Similarly, it was infamous in the true world. Not only did it have an undead body, but it was also proficient in a defensive technique. When combined with its undead body, its defense would increase by 10 times. Even a second-level quasi-saint would have a hard time killing it. In other words, as long as it guards this place, even a second-level quasi-saint like Mother Een would not be able to break through its defense and enter the 15th floor. Under its defense, the 15th floor had always been a virgin land. No one could step into it. All right, omniscient old man was an exception. However, this mountain elf was confident that there would not be a second exception in this world that could freely enter and exit its territory. It had always believed that, until it saw Ning Fan, whose body was covered in blood, and the floating corpses behind him. The heavens have taken pity on me. Those floating corpses were not ordinary living creatures. They were all undead creatures. They were actually massacred by Ning Fan in large groups. The mountain elf trembled a little. The sense of danger that Ning Fan brought to it was too great. It could feel the threat of death from Ning Fan's sword intent. It was so close to it. It had a strange intuition that the stronger its undead defense was, the greater the destructive power of this young man's sword intent. It would be enough to kill it. When it met Ning Fan's cold eyes, which were still filled with killing intent, its trembling finally reached its limit, shattering all the pride it had since ancient times. Ning Fan looked at the mountain elf and did not pay much attention to it. From Ning Fan's point of view, the undead power of this mountain elf was just slightly stronger than the corpse demon king before it transformed into a ghost soldier. However, compared to the corpse demon king, it was much weaker. After the corpse demon king turned into a ghost soldier, it had absorbed the undead power of the ghost flower of the netherworld. When such a level of undead power was stacked together, it was no longer something that a single life-slaying sword intent could severely injure. I want to go to the 15th floor. Is it convenient for you to let me pass? Yes, of course. Of course it's convenient. Senior, please help yourself. Senior, please have a safe journey. Senior, please conduct yourself with dignity. The mountain elf was terrified. Ning Fan's forehead was filled with black lines. Those were the most cowardly words he had ever heard. He was just asking for a passage. He was not going to kidnap a woman. Conduct myself with dignity. Chapter 1206. The scenery was different from what Ning Fan had imagined. The 15th floor did not look like a dragon's pool or a tiger's den. It looked more like a paradise. What entered his sight was a glowing river that flowed across the entire 15th floor. It divided the land into two sides. The southern bank was filled with endless orange trees while the northern bank was filled with endless orange trees. The rain finally stopped. Ning Fan kept his umbrella and looked at the scene of orange trees in the south and orange trees in the north. His eyes flickered with green light and then turned solemn. He took out the map of the 15th floor. On the map, be it the orange trees in the south or the orange trees in the north, they were all marked with red marks by the sludge monster. It indicated that these two places were extremely dangerous. The river that flowed across the 15th floor was marked with an arrow. It indicated that Ning Fan should go down the river by water and not by land. The orange trees on both sides are all dangerous places, Ning Fan pondered for a long time. Suddenly, his body flashed and he flew to the southern bank. The moment he set foot on the southern bank, his eyes became lazy, as if he had seen through the mortal world and lost all interest in life. As soon as he reached the southern bank, he did not want to move anymore. He did not want to take another step. He had the absurd thought of turning into an orange tree and taking root in the southern bank, living here forever. As soon as this absurd thought appeared, his skin began to harden, showing signs of turning into tree bark. Roots began to grow from the soles of his feet and took root in the soil of the southern bank. Break! Green light suddenly shone in Ning Fan's eyes, forcefully shattering the absurd thought in his mind. Without saying anything, he flew out of the southern bank and stood in midair. The moment he flew away, all the absurd thoughts in his mind disappeared along with the tree transformation on his body. Is this the reason why the southern bank is marked as a dangerous place? If it's a weaker cultivator, I'm afraid they would be corroded by the absurd thought and turn into an orange tree forever, dying here. If I recklessly step on the northern bank, I'm afraid I'll end up with the same outcome. I initially thought that the scenery of the orange trees and orange trees here was not bad. Now, it seems like these orange trees and orange trees were transformed from the living beings that died here. It was Ning Fan's first time seeing such a killing technique. Considering that this place was formed from the flesh and bones of the Lord Ant, this killing technique was probably the Lord Ant's doing. Of course, it was also possible that the orange trees and orange trees here were the work of the omniscient old man. Who knows? Sure enough, we can only go by water. Speaking of which, just when Ning Fan planned to take the water route, a grasshopper boat floated towards him on the river, as if it wanted to guide him to the depths of the 15th floor. The appearance of this boat was too strange. It was as if it appeared out of thin air with just a thought from Ning Fan. Ning Fan did not board the boat because this grasshopper boat did not have a bottom. The bottomless boat seemed ordinary, but Ning Fan's intuition, which had been tempered by life and death situations, allowed him to sense the danger of this boat. If one's cultivation wasn't high enough and recklessly boarded the ship, there might be unforeseen circumstances. With this in mind, he ignored the bottomless boat and flew down the river on his own. He thought that he would be able to reach the end by flying like a boat. However, after flying for 3 days, he still hadn't reached the end. Strange. Even if I didn't fly at full speed, I used at least 70% of my full speed. But I still can't see the end after flying for 3 days. This is seriously inconsistent with the distance marked on the map. The distance on the map isn't this far. Ning Fan wanted to use his rain technique to see how far he still had to go. However, just as his rain technique was activated, a ray of clear sunlight fell from the sky and extinguished his rain technique. His rain technique was actually restricted by this world. Ning Fan then turned his head to look at the path he came from. However, there was no trace of the path he came from. The path he had walked on had already disappeared. There was no turning back to the shore. This was too abnormal. He could not even leave the 15th floor using the same path he came from. With so many strange things happening in front of him, Ning Fan no longer rushed forward recklessly. Instead, he stopped in midair and pondered with a frown. As if it had sensed Ning Fan's troubles, the bottomless boat appeared again without him noticing and floated towards Ning Fan. It seems like I won't be able to reach the end of this river without using some special methods. So, I can only board the boat, huh? Ning Fan remained vigilant and descended towards the bottomless boat. Speaking of strange things, the boat was obviously bottomless, but he could actually stand on it. It was really mysterious. Just as he was planning to study the mysteries of the boat in detail, he suddenly felt an extremely subtle, strange feeling in his body. If it wasn't for Ning Fan's senses that were far superior to cultivators at the same level as him, he would definitely not be able to notice this strange feeling in his body. He tried to find the source of the strange feeling. After searching for a while, he was surprised to find that his primordial spirit and physical body were showing signs of being forcefully separated. What was standing on the bottomless boat right now was not his physical body. It was actually his primordial spirit. As for his physical body, more than half of it had already separated from his primordial spirit and was sinking towards the river below the bottomless boat. As he was standing on the boat, he could not directly sense the separation of his physical body. Fortunately, his heaven-defying senses allowed him to notice it. If he had noticed it a little later, his physical body would probably have already sunk into the river and be destroyed by the unknown power in the river. I really can't be careless at all. My physical body has returned to its original position. Ning Fan displayed his ability and his physical body immediately returned to its original position, becoming one with his primordial spirit again. Seeing that Ning Fan did not cooperate with it and sink his physical body, the bottomless boat became unhappy. It stopped moving forward. It actually forcefully stopped the advancement of the river and stopped at the center of the river. This scene made it seem like Ning Fan would never move forward unless he abandoned his physical body. If he doesn't board this boat, he would not be able to reach the end of the river. If he doesn't board this boat, he would not be able to leave the 15th floor either. It had the confidence to force Ning Fan to give in. If it were someone else who could not move forward or retreat, they would more or less be a little nervous. However, who was Ning Fan? He had seen all kinds of desperate situations before. How could he possibly be trapped by a mere bottomless boat? This boat seems to have a bad temper. Then, I'll just pacify it a little. Ning Fan had always been very tolerant towards strange things. I won't open it. I won't open it. I won't open it for mortals. Those who don't shed their mortal bodies are not allowed to board the boat. Go down. Quickly go down. Don't you know the rules at all? Ning Fan used his ability to communicate with all living things and easily heard the voice of the bottomless boat. It was something that others could not do, but it was not difficult for Ning Fan. Brother boat, can't you make an exception for me? You can actually hear my voice. Could it be that you are a deity? The bottomless boat was shocked. This fellow's spiritual intelligence is quite high. He can actually converse with Ning Fan so clearly. Ning Fan's eyes immediately lit up. According to his past experience, it seemed like only the ghost flower of the netherworld could converse with such high spiritual intelligence while communicating with all living things. Could this shabby boat be in existence on the same level as the ghost flower of the netherworld? Could it be that it's not a shabby boat but a treasured boat? So what if I'm a deity? So what if I'm not a deity? Ning Fan smiled and said non-committally. If you're a deity, all the more I can't help you. Deities are the enemies of our immortal spirit clan. Hey! Little brother, you haven't answered me yet. Are you a deity or not? The bottomless boat asked nervously. Of course I'm not a deity. Ning Fan lied without blushing. If he did not lie, why would he be a devil? Phew. Fortunately, you're not a deity. If that's the case, I don't have to be afraid of you. Little brother, you don't know that as a member of the Immortal Spirit Clan, I fear deities the most. All deities are bad people. They have an innate bloodline suppression on immortal spirits, and they have the advantage of being superior. They can also use their own divine blood to forcefully form a blood pact with a pure-blooded immortal spirit. You don't know how scary a blood pact is? The bottomless boat seemed to have not conversed with anyone for many years. When it saw that Ning Fan could converse with it, it immediately became a chatterbox. It couldn't be helped. It had been too many years since it spoke. Blood pact? What's that? Little brother, since you can converse with a pure-blooded immortal spirit like me, you should also be a pure-blooded immortal spirit. Why haven't I heard of blood pact with deities? In Master Boat's era, it's impossible for any pure-blooded immortal spirit to not know about it. Oh my, I forgot about it. Ha! Look at Master Boat's memory. The deities have long been eradicated by our immortal spirit clan. Times have changed. There aren't even many pure-blooded immortal spirits left. Your elders must have felt that there's no need to be wary of deities anymore. That's why they didn't tell you about the scariness of blood pact with deities. The bottomless boat tried its best to imagine. Ning Fan's lips suddenly curled into an inexplicable smile. He had a feeling that this bottomless boat might be an idiot. Brother Boat, you really know a lot. You actually know about blood pact with deities. Impressive. Ning Fan casually praised. Ha, that's right. Not only does Master Boat know about blood pact with deities, but he also knows how to draw the mark of the blood pact. Master Boat's previous master taught him all of this. He is the previous saint of the Chaotic Kuan sacred sect. Master Boat used to be his servant. What kind of secret technique does he not know? Blood pact with deities is nothing. After being flattered by Ning Fan, the bottomless boat instantly became complacent. It did not even know where it was anymore. One secret after another was revealed to Ning Fan like it was free of charge. Chaotic Kuan sacred sect? The previous saint of the Chaotic Kuan sacred sect? Ning Fan was a little interested in the previous saint that the bottomless boat mentioned. Of course, he was more interested in the blood pact with deities. Brother Boat actually knows how to draw the blood pact with deities? That's really amazing. I really want to see the blood pact that Brother Boat draws. Ha. Alright. If you want to see it, Master Boat will draw it for you. No. Master Boat is getting a little carried away. My previous master said that this is a great secret of heaven and earth. It can't be taught to outsiders. Besides, you're not a deity. Even if you know that blood pact with deities can't be used, it's useless for you to learn it. Outsider? Why would Brother Boat think that I'm an outsider? Look, what is this? Ning Fan's expression remained unchanged as he took out the sea-defying sword. The sea-defying sword was also known as the high-grade disciple sword of the Chaotic Kuan sacred sect. It was the proof of identity of the people of the Chaotic Kuan race. It was not that only the disciples of the Chaotic Kuan race could hold the sword. Instead, holding the sword would make you a disciple of the Chaotic Kuan race and it would acknowledge your identity. This boat has eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. It turns out that Senior is a high-grade disciple of the Chaotic Kuan sacred sect. I'm sorry. I've been too disrespectful. The bottomless boat immediately became terrified as if Ning Fan's special identity was something that it could not afford to offend. Now, Brother Boat, can you draw the blood pact with deities for me? Ning Fan asked with a smile. Of course you can. However, there's one thing that this boat still has to remind Senior. This blood pact with deities is too dangerous. You don't know that the owner of the blood pact won't be able to detect it. In ancient times, countless pure-blooded immortal spirits were secretly planted with this kind of pact. Unknowingly, their temperament was changed by the other party and they would listen to the words of the owner of the pact. While the bottomless boat was explaining the terror of the blood pact with deities, it circulated its ability and created ripples on the surface of the river. The ripples spread out in circles and then condensed into an extremely complicated diagram of the pact. It was the diagram of the blood pact with deities. Ning Fan only took a glance at it and memorized the lines of the blood pact. After that, he bit the tip of his finger and squeezed out a drop of his blood, flicking it towards the bottomless boat. As soon as the blood touched the body of the bottomless boat, it immediately turned into the lines of the blood pact and imprinted itself on the body of the boat. A moment later, the lines disappeared as if they had evaporated into the air. However, they had actually seeped into the depths of the bottomless boat's consciousness. Unbelievable! Senior is really a genius. You only took a look at it once and you've already memorized such complicated lines. The bottomless boat did not really care about Ning Fan's action of dripping his blood on it. It just thought that Ning Fan was just trying to play around with the blood pact he had just learned. However, the truth was that it had already been recognized by Ning Fan's blood. It still had no idea. No idea. Hee. You don't have to flatter me with your words. These lines are actually not complicated. I just happen to be good at it. No. Isn't it natural for a servant to flatter his master? This is strange. Why do I have to call you master?" The bottomless boat was bewildered. It turned out that the blood pact had already taken effect and was subtly changing its consciousness. "All right. Let's not talk anymore. Brother boat, let's hurry up," Ning Fan urged. It was strange. The bottomless boat obviously had its own principles. It would only ferry saints and not mortals. However, it still obediently obeyed Ning Fan's order and carried Ning Fan all the way down the river. It did not have any temper at all. It completely obeyed Ning Fan's words. The bottomless boat could not sense that it was under the blood pact. Even if it had doubts about this matter, the power of the blood pact would automatically erase all its doubts. It would never be able to sense this matter. The blood pact was really overbearing and terrifying. Unfortunately, this technique was only effective on pure-blooded immortal spirits. It had no effect on other living beings. It was very targeted. No wonder the Divine Spirit clan was overthrown. Their existence had seriously threatened the survival of the other clans. Ning Fan sighed in his heart. He had unexpectedly learned the blood pact and subdued a bottomless boat. He had to admit that his luck during this period of time was really good. However, he was not overly excited because the blood pact was really not very practical. It was only effective on pure-blooded immortal spirits. In the era that Ning Fan was in, it was almost useless. Therefore, he could only use it to bully the bottomless boat. As for subduing the bottomless boat, Ning Fan was also not too excited. This boat seemed to be just a low-grade innate magical treasure. It was not a big deal even if he picked up a magical treasure of this grade for free. Ning Fan had underestimated the power of the bottomless boat. In the beginning, he only treated the boat as a means of transportation in this level. After leaving this place, he probably would not need the boat anymore. At least, that was what he thought. However, he was wrong again. The grade of this bottomless boat was indeed not high. However, it was definitely not an ordinary magical treasure. This treasure could actually help one become a saint. In order to become a saint, one must first be reborn. When Ning Fan's physical body fell into the river just now, it was actually a kind of rebirth. Unfortunately, his cultivation realm was far from reaching the threshold of becoming a saint. It was still a little too early for him to undergo rebirth. If he forcefully tries to do so, he would only lose his physical body in vain. It would not bring him any benefits. Even if the grade of a treasure that could help one become a saint was not high, it could still be sold at a sky-high price in the true world. In the past, the Lord Ant had relied on the help of the bottomless boat a lot to become a saint. Only God knew how much effort she had put in to steal a bottomless boat from the chaotic Kuan sacred sect. Today, Ning Fan was the one who benefited from it. Ning Fan did not need to spend much effort. All he did was to deceive her with a few words. If the Lord Ant knew about this, she would probably die of anger. Of course, the bottomless boat did not only have the ability to help one become a saint. It was also known as no water that can cross. It meant that there was no river, lake or ocean that it could not sail on. The one in front of him was an example. The river on the 15th floor was affected by the Lord Ant's ability. Ordinary people would never be able to reach the end. However, to the bottomless boat, this was not a problem at all. This kind of small path was not difficult for it. It could easily break through the magic techniques and sail to the end of the river, coming and going freely. With the bottomless boat leading the way, Ning Fan reached the end of the river in just 1 day and 1 night. What appeared in front of him was a mountain. It was a Tao mountain. It was a gigantic mountain that was formed by the Lord Ant's Tao sense. Its height was immeasurable. It's actually a Tao mountain. The thing that little mud once seems to be at the top of the mountain. Ning Fan stood at the bow of the bottomless boat at the end of the river. Looking at the immeasurable Tao mountain of the saint which was the Lord Ant, he actually felt like an ant trying to shake a tree. Is this the Tao of a saint? Ning Fan felt a little difficult to breathe. This Tao mountain was too heavy. It was not the weight of the material level but the weight of the great Tao. Just by facing this mountain, Ning Fan felt that his Tao sense had the urge to crawl on the ground uncontrollably. It would probably be even more difficult for him to ascend to the peak. Master, you must not ascend this Tao mountain. Not only does this Tao mountain contain part of the Lord Ant's personal belongings, but it also contains part of the Lord Ant's scattered soul. When the bottomless boat saw that Ning Fan had the intention to ascend the mountain, it immediately tried to dissuade him. It completely did not realize that it was inappropriate for it to address Ning Fan as its master. The influence of the blood contract with the divine spirit was too great. Scattered soul? What's that? Ning Fan asked. When a saint's soul is scattered and doesn't die, it is called scattered soul. The bottomless boat answered. I don't really understand. Forget it. When I ascend this mountain, I will naturally know what scattered soul is. Ning Fan did not listen to the bottomless boat's advice. He displayed his ability and turned the bottomless boat into a small boat. Then, he kept it in the treasure vault of the profound Yin world. Obviously, he had already regarded this bottomless boat as his private property. The reason why he did not listen to the bottomless boat's advice was not because he did not know how dangerous this place was. He had always been a man of his words. Since he had promised to help the sludge monster, it was impossible for him to give up halfway. Whether the path ahead was filled with great danger or the scattered soul of a saint, it would not change his principle. At the same time when Ning Fan ascended the Tao mountain of the Ant Lord, the omniscient old man who was far away in the 6th level of the earth abyss finally completed the last part of the stone warrior puppet. You've helped my cultivation base improve tremendously. However, I won't thank you. The stone warrior puppet stared at the omniscient old man with fear. I'm not doing this because of your gratitude but because of the promise I made with little friend Ning. He allowed me to experiment on him and I did some small things for him. It's a fair deal. Alright. I won't talk nonsense with you anymore. Go and find that little devil Bei Xiaoman yourself. I've been busy for so many days. It's time for me to take a look at little friend Ning's cultivation data. I don't know what little friend Ning has been cultivating during this period of time. I arranged for Brother Xiang to guide him because I hope that Brother Xiang will impart to him the cultivation experience of extreme strength. Brother Xiang has been teaching him for so many days. That kid's physical strength should have improved a lot, right? His foundation is not bad. If he cultivates to the limit, his strength will definitely increase by a lot. The omniscient old man smiled. The omniscient old man excitedly went to ask the elephant demon. He thought that Ning Fan had been cultivating his strength with the elephant demon. But he was wrong. Ning Fan did not cultivate his strength. Instead, he cultivated the purity of his magic power. He did not cultivate with the elephant demon. Instead, he was arranged by the elephant demon to cultivate with the sludge monster. Nonsense. You actually arranged for little friend Ning to be teleported to the 12th level of the Earth Abyss. Do you know how dangerous that place is? That is the base camp of the light ant race. If he is killed by the light ants, where can I find such precious experimental materials? The omniscient old man was furious. More than that, he was worried about Ning Fan. That kind of worry was not only for the experimental materials, but also for a hidden emotion that he himself was not aware of. Master, this subordinate has already told him about the dangers of the 12th level. It was this kid who insisted on going. The elephant demon was a little scared. He had never seen his master so angry before. No, he had actually seen it once. That day, a certain ant saint was greedy and wanted to devour the big chun tree that his master had been guarding for many years. That day, his master ignored the warning of ancestor Hongjun. He stubbornly went his own way and killed his fellow sect members. He forcefully suppressed the Ant Lord and offended all the ancient sects in the mountain and sea realm. In a daze, the elephant demon seemed to see that crazy figure, the heaven-defying demonic crane that dared to go against the entire world. So what if it's the Ant Lord? So what if it's Hongjun? No one can hurt this old man's junior brother. Not even the heavenly king. Anyone who dares to hurt half a branch of the big chun tree will be killed. His master's angry roar from back then was still ringing in his ears, causing the elephant demon's heart to tremble. He missed the hot-blooded life of following his master in the past. It was only for a little bit of faith in his heart that he dared to go against the heavens and live up to his youth. But as time passed, he finally grew old. His master was no longer the heaven-defying demonic crane of the past. Instead, he had become an old man who had escaped into the purple battle illusory world, living in seclusion and enjoying the human world. There was nothing wrong with this. As long as its master was happy, the elephant demon was willing to bury its nature and follow its master to live a peaceful life of doing experiments. But, was master really happy like this? He couldn't even remember who he was, and he was about to forget the sect that he once regarded as important as his life. Was he really happy? Shut up. I don't want to hear any explanation right now. As long as Ning Fan is alive, he must be alive. Light Ant Tribe? Holy Ant Sect? It's just my toy. If they dare to harm even half a finger of Ning Fan's, I will annihilate their entire clan. Even if this action will awaken the Lord Ant again, I will not hesitate to do so. The omniscient old man did not waste any more time with the elephant demon. He activated the teleportation portal and directly teleported to the 12th level of the Earth Abyss. According to the elephant demon, Ning Fan should be cultivating on this floor. But why can't I sense his chi at all? Could it be that when I was stupidly assembling the stone puppets, Ning Fan had already been killed by those evil creatures of light ants? No. My master had told me to protect my junior brother well. No one is allowed to hurt my junior brother. No one is allowed to. Ants, give me an explanation. Otherwise, I will slaughter your entire clan. Give me back my junior brother. Hong Jun, I will kill you. I will kill you. The omniscient old man had gone mad. His eyes were bloodshot and tears of regret flowed out from his eyes. He could no longer differentiate reality from his memories. His rationality had been replaced by anger and regret. He did not protect his junior brother well. He failed to live up to his master's trust once again. Ah! He roared furiously. The mighty power contained in his roar actually had the potential to penetrate the 12th floor of the Earth Abyss. Even the world of the Lord Ant's spine could not stop the omniscient old man's wrath. The entire Light Ant tribe was in chaos. No one expected the omniscient old man to attack at this moment. No one expected the omniscient old man, who had been wandering around the Light Ancestor's Earth Abyss like a madman, would be so destructive when he released his full cultivation base. She was trembling. The dignified Mother Een, who was a second-stage quasi-saint, was actually trembling at this moment. She could not understand. How could the omniscient old man have such a terrifying cultivation base? Didn't she capture and suppress the omniscient old man like an idiot many times? Could it be that this person had never used his true cultivation base before? Could it be that he deliberately allowed himself to be captured and played with by her? Damn it! This old madman has really gone mad this time. Let's put aside the matter of the 13 spines for now. The danger of this old madman is beyond my understanding. Pass on my order. Gather the whole tribe and prepare for the omniscient old man. He will be here soon. No one should underestimate him. This madman is not as strong as he usually shows. He is definitely not inferior to any ancient great cultivator. He has been pretending to be weak all the time and playing tricks on us. An order was passed to the entire Light Ant tribe. The entire Light Ant tribe entered the highest state of alert in an instant. Then, the omniscient old man's eyes were cold and emotionless. He appeared in the sky above the Light Ant tribe's holy city, standing with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked down on the common people like ants. I only have one request. If you can't fulfill it, all of you will die. Give me back my junior brother. Chapter 1207. Omniscient old man's roar reverberated through the heavens and earth. It was filled with madness, fury, and indescribable regret. He was lost between his memories and reality. He seemed to have returned to that day in front of the big tree, the day he slaughtered Hongjuan's disciples. The madness he had been suppressing for 10 eras of reincarnation was awakened at this moment. His murderous aura burst out like an unstoppable tide, which instantly drowned the 12th floor of the Earth Abyss. The baleful aura became a sea, an illusory sea. All the light ants were like mayflies in the sea, so insignificant. Under the influence of the omniscient old man's murderous aura, even standing was difficult. What kind of baleful aura is this? Mother Inmu, Hua Su, and the other sage-to-be of the light ant tribe all broke out in a cold sweat. Under the influence of this murderous aura, they all felt terrified. At the same time, the cries of countless ghosts resounded throughout the 12th level of the earth abyss. That ghostly wail was not an illusion, but a real existence. It was the resentment and curse of the souls of the omniscient old man. Then, many illusory soul shadows manifested from the resentment. Like lost fish, they swam in the omniscient old man's illusory fiendish aura sea. That wasn't a true soul, but rather a mirage. It was the embodiment of karma, the evil karma of the omniscient elder's life of slaughter. Are these the people he killed? As the illusory soul shadows manifested one after another, Mother Een was so terrified that her face turned pale, because she recognized many of them. They were all famous existences in the true world. A soul hunter, Hongjun St. Clan's 3rd-generation disciple, 2nd-level quasi-sage. Perfected He Ping, Hongjun St. Clan's 3rd-generation disciple, 1st-level quasi-sage. Golden Cauldron Immortal, Hongjun St. Clan's 3rd-generation disciple, 2nd-level quasi-sage. Feng Hanzi, Hongjun St. Clan's 3rd-generation disciple, an ancient great cultivator. Venerated true lord of 3 seas. Hongjun St. Clan's 3rd-generation disciple, an ancient great cultivator. The more Mother Een watched, the more shocked she became. All-knowing old man had killed many ancient cultivators, and not just 1 or 2, but dozens of them. The ancient great cultivators were actually so easy to kill for this person. Furthermore, this person seemed to be targeting the disciples of the Hongjun Holy Sect. Did he have a blood feud with the Hongjun Holy Sect? When the 9-colored soul shadows appeared, the fear of Mother Een and the others finally rose to the extreme. This was because the 9 colors were the exclusive colors of providence for sages. It's fake. It was all fake. No matter how strong Omniscient was, it was impossible for him to kill a saint. I don't believe it. The immortal elder of the East Pole, Hongjun Holy Clan's 2nd-generation disciple, Merit Saint. 9 Mountains Dragon Sovereign, Hongjun Holy Clan's 2nd-generation disciple, 3 Corpse Primogenite. What was even more ridiculous was yet to come. The 1st-generation disciple of the Hongjun Holy Clan, the shadow of Heavenly Lord Yuanshir's half-head suddenly appeared. It was as if the omniscient old man had once chopped off half of the Heavenly Lord Yuanshir's head. But how was that possible? The primordial Lord of Heaven was a desolate saint, who had the ability to chop off half of the head of a saint of the primordial era. Ridiculous, too ridiculous. It was getting more and more fake. Mother Een suddenly calmed down. If omniscient old man was really so heaven-defying and killed so many Hongjun experts, why hadn't she heard of omniscient old man before? Yes, I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it at all. No matter what, she was a cultivator from the true world, so why had she never heard of this person before? However, she did not know that the reincarnation where the all-knowing old man slaughtered the Hongjun disciples was not the reincarnation she was currently in. She was not a saint, so she naturally could not know what had happened in other reincarnations. But it did not mean that some things had never happened. For example, those subordinates who followed omniscient old man through reincarnations really had these memories. The same idea began to grow in the hearts of the other experts of the Light Ant clan. More and more people began to doubt the strength of omniscient old man fake. It must be fake. The cultivation aura that omniscient old man showed and the soul shadows he killed were all illusions. They were all fake. This person was so cunning and despicable. He actually pretended to be a saint slaughtering expert and came to the holy city of the Light Ant clan to stir up trouble. Did he really think that we, the Light Ants, were fools? Would we be scared by such a lowly trick? High Priest, what should we do now? That omniscient old man kept asking us for our junior brother. When did we ever capture his junior brother? This person is obviously crazy. How should we deal with him? Should we persuade him with kind words or fight? Venerable Eagle Yang asked ingratiatingly. At the critical moment of the Light Ant clan, he was finally released from the Yin Wind world by Mother Yin. After experiencing Mother Yin's ability to capture a sage-to-be in one move, he was completely convinced by Mother Yin and did not dare to contradict her. Humph! Do you still need to ask? Of course, fight. The Holy Ant clan's face was just stepped on by a thief once. How could it be stepped on a second time? Pass down my order. All the male ants above the immortal Emperor realm are to fuse and kill Omniscient Old Man with the strongest power. Although Mother Yin did not believe in Omniscient Old Man's monstrous achievements, she still decided to act cautiously. She used the strongest fusion method of the Light Ant clan. Venerable Eagle Yang became the main body of fusion. The other immortal emperors, Sage-to-be, and Sage-to-be of the Light Ant clan all turned into flowing light and fused into his body. His power began to surge. Venerable Eagle Yang's cultivation realm rose steadily, from the first stage to the second stage, and then to the third stage of the ancient Grand Cultivator. Venerable Eagle Yang, who had the cultivation of an ancient Grand Cultivator, was undoubtedly powerful and terrifying. At this moment, Venerable Eagle Yang felt the greatness of power. Even a second stage Sage-to-be like Mother Yin seemed to be insignificant dust in his eyes. No one could be a match for him. Only an ancient Grand Cultivator could fight against an ancient Grand Cultivator. At this moment, Venerable Eagle Yang had such confidence in his heart. Eagle Yang, it's up to you now. I want you to kill Omniscient Old Man within 10 moves. Mother Yin ordered. Don't order me. I'm not Venerable Eagle Yang now. I'm Great Sage Eagle Sky. No one can tell me what to do. Not even you. Venerable Eagle Yang was obviously inflated. Even a great sage came out. Was that a title he could use? Even ordinary sages wouldn't dare to use it. Mother Yin's pretty face turned cold. She was rather dissatisfied with Venerable Eagle Yang's tone. However, she could tell that Venerable Eagle Yang's arrogant tone was not his own will. It was just that his body had fused with too much Tao and intent of the Light Ant clan's experts, and he could not control his Tao heart. At this moment, Venerable Eagle Yang could not suppress his thoughts at all. He would directly express them in his actions. It was not strange for people who were not strong enough to be swallowed by power. Fusion was not a good thing. Mother Yin would never participate in this kind of fusion. She did not want to bear the series of side effects that came with the fusion. It won't take more than 10 moves. I only need one move to kill Omniscient Old Man. Ha! Venerable Eagle Yang laughed arrogantly. Then his figure flashed. It was as if he had shrunk into the world and appeared in front of Omniscient Old Man. He looked at Omniscient Old Man arrogantly. He curled his finger arrogantly and provoked, "Come and fight, Ant. I hope you can bring me some fun." Omniscient Old Man's pupils dilated instantly. His eyes were bloodshot. He did not look at Venerable Eagle Yang, nor did he care about Venerable Eagle Yang's provocation. He only looked at Venerable Eagle Yang's curled finger. Memories surged like a tide. He seemed to have returned to the true world, to the blood-stained Tao spirit world of the Hongjun sacred sect. He seemed to have seen that person again. The person whose body was even bigger than the universe after he used his divine ability. The aloof and emotionless Hongjun patriarch. After that person waved his horsetail whisk, he also curled his finger at him. "Come, Han Nidian. Since you have the name of defying the heavens, try and see if you can resist half a finger of mine." Can I resist half a finger of mine? No, I can't do it. That person was too strong. He was not his opponent at all. He could not even touch the corner of his clothes. You can't struggle anymore? How boring. Since that is the case, I will not hold back anymore. In this battle, you killed 971 of my 4th-generation disciples. I will break 971 layers of your Tao bones. In this battle, you killed 64 of my 3rd-generation disciples. I will break 64 of your defying crane wings. In this battle, you killed 2 of my 2nd-generation disciples. I will destroy your eyes. In this battle, you injured half of my disciple Primordial Beginning's head. I will also destroy half of your sea of consciousness. You have the name of defying the heavens. I will take away your name. From now on, in the endless world of reincarnation, there will no longer be anyone called Han Nidin. Ah! Omniscient old man roared at the sky. Venerable Eagle Yang did not know that his action of curling his finger had completely angered omniscient old man. Ongjun, you can break my Dao bones, break my wings, destroy my eyes and sea of consciousness. You can even take away my name. But I will not allow you to hurt this big tree. He is my junior brother. He is my junior brother. Ah! You deserve to die. You deserve to die. I will kill you. I will kill you. At this moment, Eagle Yang was no longer Eagle Yang. In omniscient old man's crazy eyes, Eagle Yang was Hongjun. He was the culprit who killed his junior brother. A biting cold demonic aura gushed out from omniscient old man's body. Behind him, there was a shocking shadow of a crane. That crane had no bones, no wings, no eyes, no name. Moreover, half of its head had been cut off and was dripping with blood. What kind of crane is this? Venerable Eagle Yang's heart was beating wildly for no reason. He could not suppress it no matter how hard he tried. It was unreasonable. There was no reason for him to be afraid of such a miserable crane. However, his heart could not stop beating wildly. Intuition told Eagle Yang that at this moment, he must not give omniscient old man a chance to make a move. He must make the first move. Otherwise, he would lose all his chances. Saint Ring appear. Eagle Yang was truly heaven-defying. He actually used his cultivation to create the shadow of the Saint Ring. After all, the Light Ant clan had given birth to a saint like the Ant Lord. It was not strange for the clan to have the secret technique of the Saint Ring. This was not the real Saint Ring. It was just a kind of imitation technique. However, it was still impressive. Once the Saint Ring appeared, Eagle Yang's aura increased greatly. With the help of the Saint Ring behind him, he forcefully used the magical power of a third-step saint. His Saint Ring began to spin rapidly. Billowing black aura flowed out of the Saint Ring. From afar, the Saint Ring looked like a black hole. The black hole continued to emit a boundless suction force. Countless flesh, mountains, and rivers were forcibly sucked into the black hole. Meanwhile, omniscient old man was in the center of the black hole's suction force. This suction force could not be resisted unless one was a great ancient cultivator. Even an outstanding second-step saint could not guarantee that he would not be sucked into the black hole and suffer a lot. However, this black hole could not absorb omniscient old man at all. Eagle Yang was wondering how omniscient old man resisted the suction force of his Saint Ring. Suddenly, his vision turned black. Omniscient old man, who was shrouded in the shadow of the crane, was already in front of him. He did not even see clearly how omniscient old man attacked. He was already flying backward while vomiting blood. The Saint Ring that he was so proud of was shattered with a single blow. The Light Ant fusion technique that he was so proud of was shattered with a single blow. Countless streams of light flew out of Eagle Yang's body. In the process of flying backward, the streams of light collapsed and were destroyed. It was unknown how many immortal emperors and half-sages of the Light Ant race were killed by omniscient old man. Blood rained down on the Light Ant race's holy city. Only Eagle Yang and the other two half-sages did not die. However, they were seriously injured and on the verge of death. They fell heavily like meteorites into the Light Ant race's holy city. What did he do? Eagle Yang was scared to death. He did not know what kind of heaven-defying divine ability omniscient old man had used to destroy his great ancient cultivator fusion technique in one move. How could this person be so terrifying? What kind of divine ability was that? Mother Een and Flower Puppet, who were not involved in the situation, saw it clearly. Omniscient old man did not use any divine ability in this attack. He only used the crane shadow that shrouded his body and casually waved his crane claw. Just a casual strike of the crane claw had the power to destroy the world. Even the great ancient cultivators could not block it. This person was actually so strong. Could it be that those soul shadows are real? He really has the strength to kill saints. He even cut off half of the head of a desolate saint. Mother Een and Flower Puppet trembled and fell into despair. Fusing with the great ancient cultivators was already the strongest technique of the light ant race. However, it could not even block Omniscient Old Man. This person's strength was already beyond the heavens. If he wanted to destroy the light ant race could only wait for death. In Mother Yin's desperate eyes, the crane shadow around Omniscient Old Man launched the second attack. The power of the crane claw caused the 12th level of the earth abyss to collapse completely. It shattered into countless broken spaces and floated in the void. The power of this attack could ignore the hardness of the Ant Lord's Saint Spine and directly destroy this world. This kind of strength was simply unstoppable. The holy city of light ants was smashed into pieces by the Omniscient Old Man's claw and turned into ruins. The defensive array formation was completely useless. Countless light ants were destroyed in the collapse, torn to pieces by the Omniscient Old Man. Mother Een and Flower Puppet vomited blood and flew out in the collapse. They were like ants that were swept away by the wind and were unable to resist at all. In the collapsing wind, Mother Een forcefully stabilized her body. She could not sit still and watch the light ant race be destroyed. She could not. She did not dare to fight against Omniscient Old Man anymore. God knew if Omniscient Old Man would tear her into pieces if he attacked again. She wanted to compromise with Omniscient Old Man, but it was already too late. Senior, stop. We did not hurt your junior brother. We really did not. Please let us, the light ant race, live. We are willing to pay any price to appease Senior's anger. The arrogant Mother Een was actually begging for mercy. He could not hear it. Omniscient Old Man was completely crazy. He could not hear anything. There seemed to be a wild beast roaring in his heart. It was a patch of darkness. He only wanted to destroy. Senior, please stop. Mother Een cried. She saw Omniscient Old Man's crane shadow raised its claw for the third time and was about to attack. She wanted to stop it, but she could not even get close to Omniscient Old Man. She was directly sent flying by Omniscient Old Man's powerful aura. The light ant race is really going to be annihilated. No one could stop him. She didn't even understand why the Omniscient Old Man who had been pretending to be crazy all these years would go crazy this time. Junior brother. When had her light ant race ever hurt the omniscient junior brother? This annihilation of the entire race was really unjust. Wait. The light ant race seems to have really hurt someone recently. Could it be that the devil named Ning Fan is Omniscient Old Man's junior brother? Judging from the way this devil behaves, it seems like they are from the same sect. Senior, stop. Stop. You want to find your junior brother, don't you? I know where your junior brother is. He is not dead. He is still alive and well. He is at the 13th vertebra. The 13th vertebra. Mother Een used almost all of her cultivation base to shout out those words. Finally, some of her voice entered Omniscient Old Man's ears, causing him to stop swinging his claw for the third time. The madness in his eyes also began to diminish. Then his eyes became blank. Junior brother is not dead? That's good. That's good. But who is junior brother? Omniscient Old Man looked at Mother Een blankly. Then he looked at Crane Shadow behind him and looked at the 12th level of the earth abyss that had completely collapsed. Who is it? Who made the 12th level of the earth abyss into such a state? Don't they know that this place is an important place to suppress the Ant Lord? If they are not careful, the Ant Lord will wake up and break out of the seal. Speak. Who made this place into such a state? Omniscient Old Man roared furiously and questioned Mother Een. Senior, you did it yourself? Could it be that Senior doesn't remember? Mother Een was furious, but she did not dare to show it on her face. Could it be that this fellow has forgotten the good things he did when he went crazy? Was it me? Impossible. I have nothing better to do. Why would I destroy the 12th level? What benefits would I get from breaking the seal here? Don't lie to me. I don't read much, but I know a lot. According to the situation of the cracks here, the culprit should be some kind of ferocious bird. After all, the claw mark that tore the heavens and earth is too obvious and deeply engraved in the Great Tao. Ferocious bird. So it's a ferocious bird. Omniscient Old Man looked at Crane's shadow behind him again and felt extremely embarrassed. He silently kept Crane's shadow back into his body. It seemed that he was the one who caused the trouble here. This is troublesome. Once the seal of the 12th level is broken, there will be unforeseen events in the lower levels. Boom. 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 Suddenly, there was a loud noise that could move the mountains and overturn the seas. It came from the lower levels and confirmed Omniscient Old Man's guess. Omniscient Old Man knew that it was not good. He thought that this loud noise was caused by the awakening of the Ant Lord. If that was the case, it would be really troublesome. He immediately decided to go to the lower levels to find out what was going on. However, at this moment, a huge feeling of weakness came from his body. It caused his body to become weak and directly fell from the sky. He landed on the ruins of the city wall of the Light Ant clan. When those light ants who were still alive saw Omniscient Old Man, they immediately retreated in all directions. They were extremely afraid and didn't dare to go near Omniscient Old Man. Some timid light ants even knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. Omniscient Old Man couldn't be bothered with those light ants. His face was as gloomy as water, and he had an attitude of not letting strangers approach him. Damn it! He must have forcefully torn the seal in his body when he went crazy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have destroyed the 12th level of the Earth Abyss so easily. He was once affected by Hong Jun's seal. His cultivation was not hindered at all. He had to bear a huge side effect when he forcefully tore the seal to recover part of his cultivation. After that, he couldn't use his magic power freely for several days. This is troublesome. I don't know what happened in the lower levels. I can only rest for a few days before going to investigate. If the Ant Lord really awakens, sigh, I can only suppress it again. Omniscient Old Man directly sat cross-legged in the ruins. Seeing his strange behavior, the experts of the Light Ant clan didn't dare to ask anything. They also didn't dare to leave rashly. They just quietly opened the ruins and cleaned up the corpses of their clansmen. No one dared to hate Omniscient Old Man. No one dared to take revenge. It was not that they didn't hate him, but they didn't dare to. Omniscient Old Man had already reached another level. Even if his magic power was obviously not enough and he was sitting cross-legged, no one dared to sneak up and attack him. Only the heavens knew that if this fellow was angered, he would go crazy again and kill all the remaining light ants with a single claw. This guy must have killed a saint before. At this moment, the light ants no longer doubted Omniscient Old Man's strength. They didn't even have the thought to resist. Speaking of which, why did I go crazy? I actually can't remember anything. Also, who is Han Nin? This name is so familiar and strange. Why did this name suddenly appear in my mind? I can't remember the cause and effect at all. In a daze, Omniscient Old Man temporarily stopped his meditation. He exerted his finger force and wrote the 3 words Han Nin on the ground. However, he could only write the 2 words. He could not finish the last stroke of the 3rd word no matter how hard he tried. It was as if these 3 words could not be put together no matter what. There was a supreme existence that forbade this from happening. This is strange. Omniscient Old Man shook his head and swept away his confusion. Then he continued to meditate and adjust his breathing. When Omniscient Old Man was wreaking havoc on the 12th floor, Ningfan was trying to climb the Dao Mountain of the Ant Lord. The moment he climbed up the Dao Mountain, the water at the foot of the mountain became still. The sound of the wind between heaven and earth also became still. Green light flashed in Ningfan's eyes. With his heavenly vision, he saw that the thing that stopped in the surroundings was not the water or the wind but time. It was as if the moment he climbed up the Dao Mountain, the entire time on the 15th floor had stopped flowing. The only thing that did not stop flowing was himself. This kind of stopping time involved the means of a saint. It contained endless profound principles. Even with Ningfan's eyesight, he could not see through all of the profound principles. He could only see a very small part of it. Most of the parts had already exceeded the common sense of time that he understood. Ningfan paused his footsteps and tried to comprehend these profound principles of time. After several attempts, he failed and had no choice but to give up helplessly. There was nothing he could do about it. His cultivation base was too weak. He was far from being able to touch the barrier of this profound principle of time. This kind of feeling was like a mortal trying to fish the moon out of the water. If he could not catch it, he would not be able to. Even if he tried 1,000,000 times, the result would still be the same. This Tao mountain is the condensation of the Tao of the Ant Lord. Every blade of grass, every tree, every flower, and every stone on the mountain has a supreme Tao charm. It's not something that I can comprehend. I just need to take the things on the top of the mountain. As for the Ant Lord's Tao, there's no need for me to take it or comprehend it. People with different Taos cannot work together. The higher he climbed, the greater the pressure that the Tao mountain gave Ning Fan. As such, the higher Ning Fan climbed, the slower his walking speed became. Gradually, every step he took seemed to require him to use all of his strength. After walking for an unknown period of time, Ning Fan finally exhausted all of his strength. He had no choice but to stop and rest for a while. He smiled bitterly. Sure enough, I still can't get used to using this tree body. Even though the pressure on the Tao mountain is huge, I'm already so tired after just walking for such a short distance. No one knew what the tree body he mentioned was referring to. Only he knew that the tree body was referring to his tree demon clone. Tree demon clone was a secret technique that Ning Fan obtained when he killed the soul-sucking tree. He had already cultivated it to the minor completion realm by relying on the black wind gourd. However, he rarely used it because up until now, no one could really force him into a corner and force him to use his trump card, the tree demon clone. Once this technique is activated, he could use the Tao of wood to create a clone with the same cultivation base as his main body. With the current level of his clone, he could only create a tree demon clone. Currently, he was not using his main body on the Tao mountain at all. Instead, he was using his clone. As for his main body, it was hidden in the void space, following closely behind his clone. Such a cautious way of doing things was enough to show how cautious and fearful he was of the Tao mountain. Even though the cultivation base of the tree demon clone was the same as the main body, it could not inherit the cultivation base of the main body. Moreover, the clone could not last for too long. This also greatly limited the usage of the tree demon clone. Normally, it could only be used in battles or before entering a place of great danger. It could also be used to scout ahead and obtain information about the place. When he turned his head and looked at the foot of the mountain, he had already climbed to 1/10 of the mountain's height. When he looked at the peak of the mountain, it seemed to have increased by 1/10 of its height. It was as far away as it was at the beginning. If I climb 1 qi higher, the mountain will increase by 1 qi. If I climb 10 zhang higher, the mountain will increase by 10 zhang. This is the Tao mountain. If I climb it with brute force, I will never be able to reach the peak of this mountain. If I use tricks to fly to the peak of the mountain, I will also fail. Ning Fan picked up a stone from beside his feet. He circulated his magic power and hurled it towards the peak of the mountain. Speaking of strange, when the stone was halfway through its flight, the space suddenly distorted and disappeared. After that, the stone strangely passed through the space and returned to Ning Fan's feet. This was the consequence of climbing the mountain through tricks, be it time or space. They were all under the control of this Tao mountain. Unless the Tao mountain allows it, it would be very, very difficult to reach the peak of the mountain. Then things would be simple. As long as the Tao mountain allows it, everything will be fine. If it can save me trouble, why bother? Hey, Brother Shan, can you do me a favor and let me fly directly to the peak of the mountain? Ning Fan suddenly smiled and started chatting with the entire mountain. Unfortunately, this Tao mountain was not a member of the Immortal Spirit clan and it was not a pure-blooded immortal spirit. Thus, he could not use the blood contract with a divine spirit. Otherwise, he would be very willing to accept another servant of the Tao mountain. No way! What does it have to do with me if you want to go to the peak of the mountain? Why should I make an exception for you? Besides, I am not your brother Shan. I am your big sister Xiao Shan. Big sister Xiao Shan? Ning Fan could not help but laugh. He actually got the gender of this Tao mountain wrong. Come to think of it, it made sense. Since the Lord Ant was a female, it was not strange for her Tao mountain to be a female. Moreover, since it was formed from the Lord Ant's Tao, It was not strange for the Tao Mountain to have a higher spiritual intelligence and be able to converse. All right, Miss Xiaoshan, could you please do me a favor? Ning Fan's interest towards this Tao Mountain was piqued. This interest was not because the Lord Ant's Tao was profound and unfathomable. Instead, it was because the Tao Mountain itself was very interesting. Humph! You must call me Big Sister Xiaoshan. Otherwise, I will ignore you. This Tao Mountain let out a soft harumph. How arrogant! I am older than you. How can I call you Big Sister? If I want to call you, I should call you Little Sister. Ning Fan said with a smile. You are older than me? This is impossible. Don't try to lie to me. Your bone age is obviously only 100,000 years old. I am already at the age of 10 generations of reincarnation. I am old enough to be your grandmother. Yes, let's do it this way. Don't call me Big Sister Xiaoshan anymore. Call me Grandma Xiaoshan. How old are 10 generations of reincarnation? Ning Fan asked in surprise. You don't even know this? How stupid! One era is 1,000,000 ancient times. One ancient time is 4 springs. One spring every 8,000 years and one autumn every 8,000 years. Wait, don't disturb me. Let me calculate how old I am. How many 8,000 years are 4? 1,000,000 ancient times is... How many? Boo! I can't calculate it. It's so difficult. Dao Shan cried. She no longer had the slightest bit of arrogance. Her personality suddenly became like that of a soft girl. You can't calculate it? Don't cry. Let me help you calculate it. I got it. How old am I? Quickly tell me how old I am. You are 3 years old this year. 3 years old? Impossible. I'm not stupid. Don't lie to me. I really can't lie to him. It seems like this Dao Shan's intelligence is much higher than the bottomless boat. How can I be only 3 years old? I am at least 4 years old. All right. I overestimated this Dao Shan. He is indeed no different from a bottomless boat. Damn it. So I am only 4 years old this year. You're already so old. You can be my ancestor. I can't be your big sister Xiaoshan any. This girl seemed to be very obsessed with being an elder sister. Thank you for helping me calculate my age. As a reward, I will make it easier for you to climb the mountain. From now on, the mountain won't get any taller if you climb it again. I settled the Dao Shan just like that? It's much easier than I imagined. By the way, it's too boring for you to stay here alone. When I reach the peak of the mountain, I will bring you away from this place. Are you willing? If this mountain was unwilling, Ning Fan could not move the Saint Dao of the Ant Lord and bring this mountain away. However, if this mountain was willing, he did not mind taking in a little pet. All right. If you bring me out to play, I will call you Big Brother Tree Spirit. I have long gotten tired of this broken place. It's boring and there are also stinky women controlling me everywhere. You can see through my tree demon clone? Ning Fan was surprised. Was his tree demon clone so clumsy? A mountain actually saw through it. I can't. However, I saw the scene where you summoned your clone and hid your true body after climbing the mountain. Of course, I know that you are now a tree. Have you forgotten that I am the mountain beneath your feet? I don't know what you are doing to me. It turned out that he did not see through the tree demon clone. Instead, he saw the process of Ning Fan summoning his clone. I see. Ning Fan chatted with Dao Shan for a while longer. The more they talked, the more smiles he had. Obviously, Dao Shan's silly and adorable behavior had pleased him. However, his smile disappeared at the next moment. It was because he could sense that an enemy had appeared at the peak of the Dao Mountain. The enemy was rushing towards him at full speed. That person's speed was very fast. She completely ignored the obstruction of the Dao Mountain and directly flew down from the peak of the mountain. In the blink of an eye, she appeared in front of Ning Fan. She did not need to follow any rules of climbing and descending the mountain because she was the master of the Dao Mountain. Who are you? How dare you climb my Dao Mountain? It was a lady with an illusory body. Her face was as beautiful as a mountain ghost. However, her body gave off a dangerous qi that made one's heart palpitate. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. This lady claims to be the master of the Dao Mountain. Could she be the Ant Lord? But how is this possible? Wasn't the Ant Lord suppressed by Senior Omniscient? Moreover, this lady did not seem to have the cultivation base of a Saint Realm expert. She was just at the first level quasi-Saint Realm. Her magic power was between 12,000 to 13,000 Tribulation Realm. The reason why Ning Fan felt fearful was not because of her cultivation base. Speaking of which, the bottomless boat had mentioned that there was an Ant Lord's scattered soul on the Dao Mountain. Could this lady be the so-called scattered soul? If you don't want to answer me, then you can die now. The lady's killing intent was too strong. She did not want to talk nonsense with Ning Fan at all. With a wave of her palm, a Dao weapon appeared in her hand. There was a vague shadow of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain floating above the Dao weapon. Then she slashed at Ning Fan. It was a type of Dao weapon with ancient diagrams. Ning Fan had seen it before. Its name was the Kunlun Sword, also known as the high-grade disciple sword of the Hongjun sacred sect. It was very similar to the ocean-defying sword. It was a symbol of the status of a disciple of an ancient sacred sect. This was the Dao weapon of a Saint Realm expert. Even if the Ant Lord had never refined this sword properly in the past, it was still extremely powerful. After all, the grade of a Dao weapon was related to its owner's cultivation base. The feeling that this sword gave Ning Fan was comparable to a high-grade innate magic treasure. To an existence like the Ant Lord, a high-grade innate magic treasure was nothing. However, to a cultivator of the illusory dream world like Ning Fan, a high-grade innate magic treasure was already enough to be a great killing weapon. At the very least, Ning Fan did not have a single magic treasure that could be a match for this sword. In a hurry, Ning Fan also summoned his Dao weapon to block the lady's sword. However, the ocean-defying sword obviously could not withstand the destructive power of the lady's sword. As the sword hummed, cracks appeared on the body of the sword. In a direct confrontation between two swords, it was completely at a disadvantage. It's actually the ocean-defying sword? Are you a disciple of the primordial Kuan sect? Then, there's even more reason for me to kill you. The lady seemed to be enraged by Ning Fan's identity. She swung her sword again. It was as if heaven and earth were being sliced apart by this sword. Ning Fan used the ocean-defying sword to barely block the second, third, and fourth sword attacks. When it reached the 11th sword attack, he no longer dared to use it again no matter what. The ocean-defying sword was already on the verge of collapsing after just blocking 10 attacks from the opponent's Dao weapon. It needed to be nourished for a while before it could be used again. This made Ning Fan extremely displeased. So what if this lady is really the scattered soul of the Ant Lord? Her scattered soul obviously did not possess the full cultivation base of a Saint Realm expert. She only possessed a tiny trace of it. Ning Fan was not arrogant enough to think that he could rival a Saint Realm expert. However, if the enemy is just a trace of a Saint Realm expert's scattered soul, then it would be an exception. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with cold light. He kept the ocean-defying sword and patted his storage pouch. Several low-grade innate magic treasures were immediately thrown at the lady. These magic treasures were naturally obtained from the Light Ant clan. He had yet to throw them into the incinerator to be incinerated. Now, however, Ning Fan used them to fight against his enemy. You do have quite a lot of magic treasures. Unfortunately, the difference between a high-grade innate magic treasure and a low-grade innate magic treasure is like heaven and earth. No matter how many low-grade innate magic treasures you have, it's all in vain. The lady smiled arrogantly. Just as she was about to swing her sword to destroy these few innate magic treasures, those magic treasures self-destructed before her sword could reach them. They did not self-destruct. They were detonated by Ning Fan. Is this young man a madman? Even though low-grade innate magic treasures were not valuable, they should not be cheap enough to be used as explosives, right? The lady's cultivation base was comparable to a first-level quasi-saint. However, because she was just a scattered soul, her body was extremely weak. If she is affected by the explosion of the innate magic treasures, she would be injured more or less. She naturally did not dare to underestimate the explosion of the magic treasures. She gently pressed her Kunlun sword with her finger. Countless rays of sword light flew out from the sword, forming layers of dark green sword astral, protecting her at the center. This Kunlun sword was indeed a high-grade innate magic treasure. As soon as the defensive layer of sword astral was activated, the explosion of the few innate magic treasures could not hurt the lady at all. Humph! You want to hurt my scattered soul body with such insignificant tricks? How ridiculous! The lady said disdainfully. Ning Fan did not pay attention to her. He patted his storage pouch and summoned the sea-steadying divine needle. Then he threw it at the lady. You actually have a treasure like the sea-steadying divine needle. Unfortunately, even though this treasure is famous, you only have one of the 9 needles. You are not a match for my Dao weapon. The sword astral would absorb some of the power of the Kunlun sword. Just as the lady was about to remove the protective sword astral and use the full power of the Kunlun sword to destroy the sea-steadying divine needle, she suddenly caught a glimpse of cold light from Ning Fan's eyes. Immediately, she became alarmed. I almost fell into his trap. If I remove the protective sword astral, this brat will immediately detonate the sea-steadying divine needle. This is a mid-grade innate magic treasure. Its explosion is enough to severely injure my scattered soul body. If it was someone else, the lady would not believe that that person would be willing to detonate a treasure at the level of the sea-steadying divine needle. However, Ning Fan had already learned his lesson. He was clearly a lunatic who used magic treasures as bombs. Facing such a lunatic, the lady did not dare to be careless. She had no choice but to continue activating the sword astral to fight against Ning Fan. However, once the sword astral was activated, it would absorb nearly half of the power of the Kunlun sword. Even though the Kunlun sword was a high-grade innate magic treasure, it would still be unable to crush the sea-steadying divine needle if it only uses half of its power. In just a short span of 100 breaths, the two of them had exchanged hundreds of attacks with their magic treasures. The lady could only gain a slight upper hand. The sea-steadying divine needle was too heavy. It was too hard. Its grade was obviously not as good as the Kunlun sword. After exchanging hundreds of attacks, the Kunlun sword only managed to leave a few cracks on it. The Kunlun sword, on the other hand, was not in an advantageous position. After being hit by the sea-steadying divine needle for too many times, the spiritual light it emitted had become slightly dimmer. Perhaps I should withdraw the sword astral and use the Kunlun sword's full power to destroy his sea-steadying divine needle? But if I do that, I will definitely be severely injured if he decides to detonate the sea-steadying divine needle. Or perhaps, he detonated a few low-grade innate magic treasures just now to create a false impression to force me to not withdraw the sword astral easily. However, how did he know that my Kunlun sword can release the sword astral to protect my body? That's right. Since he possesses the sea-defying sword, it's not strange for him to know the Kunlun sword as well. I don't care how he schemed against me. I just need to use my Kunlun sword to destroy his sea-steadying divine needle. Although the Kunlun sword can only exert half of its power under the combination of attack and defense, I predict that his sea-steadying divine needle will no longer be able to hold on after exchanging a few hundred more attacks. After this needle is defeated, I want to see how he is going to block the sharpness of my treasured sword again. Just as expected, after exchanging hundreds of more attacks, the cracks on the sea-steadying divine needle reached its limit. It could no longer fight against the Kunlun sword. Of course, the spiritual light of the Kunlun sword was also scattered by the sea-steadying divine needle. Ning Fan had no choice but to withdraw the sea-steadying divine needle. At this moment, the lady revealed a cold smile. Is this all you have? You are destined to be killed by me here. The lady shook the Kunlun sword. Countless rays of sword light turned into mountains and rivers, pressing down on Ning Fan. However, before those mountains and rivers could be completely suppressed, they were swept away by the rays of light from the 7 treasures and destroyed. You actually have a mid-grade innate wondrous tree of 7 treasures. How did you get so many treasures? The lady's expression turned slightly unpleasant. She initially thought that after getting rid of the sea-steadying divine needle, he would no longer have any strength to resist. However, the reality was that he still had the Seven Treasures wondrous tree, which allowed him to continue the battle of attrition with her. She did not put his Seven Treasures wondrous tree in her eyes at all. However, the problem was, under the situation of only using half of its power, the Kunlun sword would lose a lot of its spiritual light even if it wins another battle. What if he takes out a third mid-grade innate magic treasure to fight against her? I see. You purposely set up an illusion to force me to only use half of the Kunlun sword's power to fight against you. Then, you took the opportunity to exhaust the spiritual light of my treasured sword by fighting me one after another. What a good scheme you have. Unfortunately, I have already seen through it. I don't believe that you will be willing to detonate your Seven Treasures wondrous tree to hurt me. The lady withdrew the protective sword aura and wanted to use the Kunlun sword to destroy the Seven Treasures wondrous tree with all its power to teach Ning Fan a lesson. However, just as she withdrew the protective sword aura, she saw Ning Fan's eyes flashing with cold light again. Then, the power of the Seven Treasures wondrous tree expanded as if it was going to explode at any time. Damn it! This is an overt scheme. He is certain that I won't dare to take the risk. The lady had no choice but to activate the protective sword aura again. No one knew if Ning Fan would really detonate the Seven Treasures wondrous tree. Just like that, after 1,000 rounds, the Seven Treasures wondrous tree was also damaged to the point where it could no longer fight. The Kunlun sword was not in a good state either. After being consumed by the sea-steadying divine needle and the Seven Treasures wondrous tree, its power had been greatly reduced. It seems like you only know how to use Dao tools to fight against your enemies. Ning Fan suddenly spoke. So what if I am? It's enough to kill you. The lady's expression was still cold. Inwardly, however, she was secretly shocked. This man actually managed to find out about her background without batting an eyelid. Lacking methods to fight against enemies and a weak soul body. This lady has too many weaknesses. Even if she has the Kunlun sword in her hand, she should not have given Ning Fan such a strong sense of danger. I still have to be more careful. After using the Seven Treasures wondrous tree, Ning Fan took out the sun, moon and stars steel and continued to wear down the spiritual light of the Kunlun sword. The spiritual light of the Kunlun sword became dimmer and dimmer. Its power became weaker and weaker. This time, it actually took him a few thousand rounds to completely destroy the sun, moon and stars steel. However, at this moment, the spiritual light of the Kunlun sword was also running out. It was obvious that it had reached its limit. At this moment, even if the Kunlun sword withdrew its protective sword aura and unleashed its full power, it would only be equivalent to some slightly stronger mid-grade innate magic treasures. Even if Ning Fan confronts the lady head-on, he would not be at too much of a disadvantage. It was time for him to use his full power and get rid of this lady in one go. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Ning Fan's primordial spirit suddenly felt a sharp pain. Then an unknown seed took root and sprouted in the depths of his primordial spirit. A sapling forcefully grew out of his primordial spirit and his physical body. Is this the reason why I felt a sense of danger? I didn't even notice how she planted the seed in my body. What a difficult method to guard against. Ning Fan's expression was cold, but he did not panic. Obviously, he had already expected the enemy's next move. However, he did not expect that it would come so suddenly. Young man, you are too careless. This strand of my scattered soul is indeed weak, but it is not something that anyone can bully. You want to fight a battle of attrition and exhaust the power of my Kunlun sword. However, you don't know that I also want to buy time so that the light tree can take root and sprout in your body. Do you feel very painful? Do you feel that it is getting harder and harder to use your magic power? Unfortunately, this is the power of the light tree. Once it successfully takes root and sprout, only saints can remove it. Your cultivation base and flesh will be sucked dry by it and you will die in the end. The lady said proudly. More and more branches broke out of Ning Fan's body and grew forcefully. Those branches were completely made of light. They constantly absorbed Ning Fan's cultivation base and flesh, using them as nutrients in exchange for a chance to grow. Ning Fan raised his head and looked at the sky. Only then did he realize that there was something wrong with the light of the entire 15th floor. After he came to the 15th floor, he only paid attention to Jianglu, Nanju, Beiji, and Daoshan, but he never noticed that on this 15th floor, there was actually a towering tree, and its root was rooted on this Daoshan. The light tree. It was a huge tree that was completely made of natural light. In places where there was light, you could only see natural light but not this tree. It was because this tree itself was a part of the natural light. It was perfectly hidden between heaven and earth. Unless heaven and earth fell into darkness. Ning Fan activated his dark yin-yang. The entire 15th floor fell into darkness. When all the natural light was blocked by Ning Fan, what appeared in front of Ning Fan was a gigantic light tree that illuminated the darkness. The translucent body of the tree and the light flowing between the branches and leaves were unimaginably beautiful. So that's how it is. This place actually hid such a magical tree perfectly without me noticing it. Ever since I set foot on the Dao Mountain, I have been illuminated by the light of this tree. I have always been under its attack. Unfortunately, this tree itself is a part of the natural light. When I am illuminated by it, I only feel that I am being illuminated by the natural light. I won't notice anything. When I am illuminated by this tree for a certain period of time, it will plant a seed in me and it will take root and sprout in my body. Ning Fan suddenly revealed a smile and looked at the light tree with interest. At this moment, the light tree kept growing out of his body. His entire body was almost turning into a tree. Once the growth of the light tree takes shape, it would be unstoppable. His body was paralyzed by the light tree. He could barely use any of his magic power. No matter how he looked at it, he was in a dangerous situation. However, he could still smile. It was his fault for being cautious before ascending the mountain and not using his true body. You're still smiling even when you're about to die. The lady was full of disdain. She subconsciously thought that Ning Fan's smile was a struggle before his death. She walked closer to him and pierced his dantian with her sword. Even though the light tree can kill you, its killing speed is too slow. So, it's better for you to die in my hands. Strange. This feeling of piercing flesh and blood doesn't feel right. As the lady pierced through Ning Fan's dantian, Ning Fan suddenly lost all of his vitality like a withered tree. Then, his physical body began to change its appearance and revealed its true form. It had turned into a tree. A withered tree. This is the clone of a tree demon. The one who has been fighting against me all this while is actually not your true body. The lady's face darkened. She wanted to pull her Kunlun sword out from the withered tree that Ning Fan had turned into. However, she could not move it at all. At the same time, she felt a sense of danger coming from behind her. At that moment, how could she still care about the Kunlun sword? She abandoned her sword and tried to retreat. However, it was still too late. Ning Fan's figure broke through the void without any warning and appeared. As soon as he appeared, he used the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike, which nearly caused the lady's soul to dissipate. She was sent flying several thousand zhang away while coughing out blood. This is your true body. Previously, when you ascended the Dao Mountain, you were only using the clone of a tree demon. Your true body had always been hiding in the void and following behind your clone. The lady gritted her teeth in anger. This was not a guess but a certainty. Ning Fan did not have the mood to talk nonsense with her. After his attack succeeded, he approached her again. He activated the cross-shaped halo and the eternal true body at the same time and attacked with the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike. Damn it! The Kunlun sword is protecting its master. Hurry up and protect its master. Why aren't you protecting your master? The lady summoned her sword 3 times in a row. However, the Kunlun sword was still stuck in the withered tree that Ning Fan's clone had turned into. No matter how hard it struggled, it could not fly out. Naturally, it could not protect its master. After all, the power of Ning Fan's father, the divine spark, had been integrated into this withered tree clone. Under the entanglement of the Tao of wood, The sword would not be able to fly back to the lady within a short period of time. What a humiliation! She was the soul of a dignified saint, but she was actually tricked by a junior. The lady was like a drifting willow catkin that was being destroyed by Ning Fan's storm-like mountain-breaking strike. She was just a trace of her soul, and the only technique she could use was the Dao tool. The reason why she could use the light tree to launch a sneak attack was because the tree itself grew here. Ning Fan had discovered the light tree, and the Kunlun sword was trapped by him. Currently, she no longer had any other techniques to deal with him, even though her magic power was comparable to a quasi-saint. 3,000 Ancient Devils Mountain-Breaking Strike. 6,000 Ancient Devils Mountain-Breaking Strike. 8,000 Ancient Devils Mountain-Breaking Strike. The lady was no match for Ning Fan at all. She was on the verge of death after being beaten by Ning Fan's rain of punches. At this moment, the power of the Saint Indestructible Soul was displayed. No matter how heavily injured the lady was, she actually did not seem to be truly destroyed. This was the Saint Indestructible Soul. This kind of indestructibility had nothing to do with the power of undying. Instead, it was related to the existence itself. Due to its unchanging existence, it was eternally indestructible. In order to destroy this soul, the only way to do so was to erase her existence. Otherwise, even if Ning Fan continued to throw tens of thousands of punches or even millions of punches, he would only continue to aggravate her injuries and would not truly destroy her. The power that could erase an existence was only samsara. "Stinking brat, you can't kill me," the lady said viciously. "Is that so?" Ning Fan suddenly changed the momentum of his punches. His next attack was the Ancient Devil Mountain Breaking Strike. He had integrated a trace of samsara power into it. It was an extremely small trace. However, it was enough to hurt the root of the lady's existence. You can actually use the samsara power. The lady was finally afraid. She did not want her soul to be destroyed by Ning Fan no matter what. She must resist. Even if the price of doing so was extremely high, it was still much better than having her soul destroyed. You're not the only one who can use the samsara power. Even though the amount of samsara power I can use is the same as yours and it's equally rare, the samsara ability that I can display is far beyond your imagination. A saint isn't someone you can bully. Samsara Dream, activate. The lady displayed her ability and suddenly fell into a deep sleep. The moment she fell into a deep sleep, Ning Fan also fell into a deep sleep. With the Dao Mountain as the center, that slumbering power spread across the entire 15th floor. Very soon, all living beings on the 15th floor fell into a deep sleep. No one could wake up. This was a technique that attacked indiscriminately. Once this technique is activated, all living beings would fall into a dream, as expected of a saint's scattered soul. Even though her methods and temperament are far inferior to a real saint, she still shouldn't be underestimated. Samsara Dream. This is probably the dream world that she controls. She needs the samsara power to activate this technique. However, I don't know if she pulled me into this dream world just to destroy my spirit sense or if she has other intentions. If it's the former, I have a divine spirit sea of consciousness with me so I can protect myself. However, if it's the latter, I have to be careful. Ning Fan made up his mind and walked in the illusory world of dreams. In front of him was a hazy white mist. He could not see anything clearly. Ning Fan was wary of the lady's sneak attacks. However, she did not launch any sneak attacks from the beginning to the end. Very soon, he found the reason why she did not launch a sneak attack on him. It turned out that her cultivation base was seriously insufficient as a scattered soul. Even though she forcefully pulled Ning Fan into this samsara dream, she could not control this dream perfectly. When the white mist in front of him dispersed, Ning Fan appeared on a ridge of fields. Beneath his feet was a panicking ant that was trying to escape. Don't tell me that I'm still in my human form after you pulled me into this dream while you've turned into an ant without any cultivation base. Don't tell me that I'm still in my human form after you pulled me into this dream while you've turned into an ant without any cultivation base. Ning Fan sneered and picked up the ant that was trying to escape from the ground. Of course, the ant could not escape. How could a tiny ant be a match for a human? Damn it. My cultivation base isn't strong enough. That's why this happened. If my cultivation base is strong enough, killing you in this dream will be as easy as flipping my palm. Is that so? But I won't give you that chance. Ning Fan clenched his fist and crushed the ant in his hand. He would not show compassion to just anyone. At the very least, the Ant Lord did not receive his compassion. Moreover, he did not know why, but he hated the Ant Lord from the bottom of his heart. This kind of situation rarely happened. It was extremely strange for it to happen to the Ant Lord. Initially, Ning Fan thought that he would be able to leave this dream after he crushed the Ant Lord to death. However, he was wrong. After he crushed the Ant Lord to death, the samsara dream first shattered. Then, it condensed again and returned to the initial scene of white mist. I've clearly killed the Ant Lord once in this dream, but I can't leave this place. Could it be that I've used the wrong method? Ning Fan frowned. It's not wrong. However, you've only killed me once. It's not enough. Just wait and see. When the next dream begins, I won't still be a weak ant. You will die a horrible death. The lady sneered. As soon as her voice fell, the white mist in the dream world began to dissipate again. This time, Ning Fan appeared above an ocean. At the same time, a female cultivator wearing a black dress appeared above the ocean. She was none other than the Ant Lord. Unlike the previous time, the Ant Lord no longer had no cultivation base at all. On the contrary, her cultivation base was terrifyingly high. A sage. Little brat, have you ever been crushed by a sage before? The Ant Lord's face was emotionless, as if nothing could make her show any other expression. Her current expression was completely different from her temperamental self when she was in the form of a scattered soul. She was the ruler of this dream world. In this place, even though she was in the form of a scattered soul, she could dream back to the past and recover her strength in the past. She who was at her peak could perfectly control her inner heart, and her emotions would not fluctuate easily. In the dream of samsara, every time you and I die, we won't really die. Only a part of our spirit sense will be damaged. However, if our spirit sense is damaged to a certain extent, we will still die. The difference is that if you die, you will lose everything. As for me, only a trace of my scattered soul will die. I know that your spirit sense is strong. Therefore, I will kill you 100 times. An unprecedented sense of danger rose in Ning Fan's heart. Without hesitation, he ran at his fastest speed to escape. However, he could not escape. He had clearly run far away. However, when he regained his senses, he realized that he was still fleeing from the Ant Lord's gigantic palm like an ant. There was no way he could escape from the Ant Lord's 5 fingers. Previously, you seemed to think that it was fun to pinch me to death. So, this time, it's my turn to pinch you to death. The Ant Lord pinched him with 2 fingers, and he was already crushed into a pile of minced meat. This was the first time he died in the dream of samsara. He was completely not a match for the Ant Lord. Chapter 1208. Following Ning Fan's death, heaven and earth turned into a world of white mist again. Then, Ning Fan's disintegrated body reassembled in the white mist. Bit by bit, he reappeared in the world. I'm not his match at all. In front of the Ant Lord at his peak, I can't even escape. Ning Fan smiled bitterly. After that, his eyes glinted with cold light. The other party actually wanted to kill him 100 times in his dreams. Even if he was a saint, he was too arrogant. The scattered soul of a saint was not a true saint after all. You can kill me 100 times, 1,000 times, but as long as you are careless, I will consign you to eternal damnation. I already said that I would kill you 100 times. Now, there are only 99 times left. The white fog in front of him was suddenly blown away by the strong wind. This time, the world in the dream was no longer a vast ocean, but a mountain shaped like a crouching bull. A mountain that was even larger than the endless starry sky. It was so huge that the entire 4 heavens could not contain such a mountain. What kind of mountain is this? It's so huge. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He could feel a trace of chi that was as strong as the heavenly might from the mountain. It seemed to be in deep slumber. This time, in the reincarnation of dreams, the scene that appeared was Baying Mountain. As an ant of the illusory world, you have probably never seen this mountain in your entire life. But there is no one in our true world who does not recognize this mountain. After all, this is one of the 9 mountains of Patriarch Hong Jun's Tao spirit world. Lord Ant's body also manifested in the world, and when he looked at the mountain, his eyes were filled with admiration. However, when her eyes fell on Ning Fan again, they returned to their usual coldness and ruthlessness. Killing intent rose again. A cold light shot out from the ant leader's beautiful eyes. It was as if it could pierce through the heavens and earth, possessing an unparalleled might. Ning Fan used all of his strength to evade the attack, but he could not escape from the cold light. The moment he was hit by the cold light, his entire body turned into ice. Then, the ice shattered into countless ice shards. Ning Fan had fallen once again. Moreover, this time, the Ant Lord didn't even do anything. Just an icy glint appeared in his eyes, and he was directly frozen to death. Was the gap between him and the Ant Lord so big? It couldn't even withstand a single glance from the Ant Master? No, that's not right. That wasn't an ordinary stare. It was a cold stare that had the power of reincarnation circulating around it. It should be a divine ability of a saint, which was why it could destroy me in one strike. The world returned to white mist. Inside the white mist, Ning Fan was reborn again. As the white mist dissipated, a brand new world of dreams appeared in front of his eyes. What came into view was an unfamiliar continent. On the continent, there was a lifeless celestial kingdom. This immortal country was too strange. It was unknown what happened, but all of the people were turned into stone statues. The expressions of fear on their faces were so vivid, frozen in the long river of time. Not good. This time, the reincarnation of the immortal kingdom appeared. I don't have the time to kill that stinking brat. I must leave this place. The Lord Ant had just reappeared in the world. As soon as he saw the surrounding terrain, his expression changed drastically. He actually did not kill Ning Fan for the 3rd time. Instead, he turned around and fled. However, he could not escape. Without any warning, her body began to petrify, the speed of petrification too fast. In just a moment, the Ant Lord turned into a fossil, all of her life aura extinguished, her death extremely strange. The Lord Ant was actually killed by her own dream world? Just as Ning Fan was puzzled, he became speechless. The Lord Ant was not the only one who was petrified. He was also petrified. His body suddenly turned into stone and all of his life aura was directly extinguished. Ning Fan did not even know who was the one who attacked him. Fortunately, his death this time was not completely meaningless. The Lord Ant had also unfortunately died once. I understand now. The Lord Ant is just a trace of her scattered soul. She can forcefully pull me into this reincarnation dreamland. However, she can't really control how the dreamland will develop. Previously, she turned into an ordinary ant and was killed by me. This time, she was turned into stone by the immortal country in her dream. Even though I have died 3 times in this dream, she has also died twice. I have died 3 times, but the damage to my sea of consciousness is negligible. Even though she has only died twice, the damage to her sea of consciousness seems to be much more serious than mine. Ning Fan's body reappeared in the world of white mist. His senses were far beyond those at the same level as him. Through this dreamland, he could vaguely feel that the aura of the Lord Ant's scattered soul had weakened significantly. Could it be that the sea of consciousness of the Lord Ant's scattered soul was not as sturdy as his? Otherwise, why would she become so much weaker after just dying twice? Ning Fan reckoned that with the sturdiness of his sea of consciousness, he would not die even if he was killed 100 times in this dreamland. He would need to be killed at least 200 times before his life would be in danger. What about the Lord Ant? How many times could the Lord Ant die? 30 times? 20 times? 10 times? Or could she not even withstand 10 deaths? Even though I can't kill the Lord Ant directly, as long as the Lord Ant's dreamland goes wrong, she will also have a great chance of dying. What I need to do is to guide this dream to develop in a direction that is not beneficial to the Lord Ant. In the world of white mist, Ning Fan closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the shadow of the reincarnation seed appeared in his eyes. It began to take root and germinate. It was the reincarnation seed that Ning Fan condensed with his own Tao cultivation. All the power of samsara that was born from it belonged to Ning Fan, and it was not an imitation. Unfortunately, this reincarnation power was too little. But sometimes, it didn't take much power to disrupt the situation. The world was like a boundless piece of paper, but only a drop of ink was needed to stain it. Ning Fan could not use the power of samsara to create this kind of dreamland that was filled with white mist. However, he could create a drop of ink. A black ray of light flashed across Ning Fan's eyes. A drop of samsara ink was drawn heavily in the misty heaven and earth. His reincarnation power was too little. It was so little that it was drowned out by even more white fog the moment he drew it. However, a small amount did not mean that there was no impact. The next scene appeared in the dreamland. When the Ant Lord appeared again, her expression was extremely ugly. It was out of control. She had completely lost control of this dream cycle. She was only a scattered soul, so it was already very difficult for her to use this kind of divine ability. She could only rely on the small amount of reincarnation power to barely maintain her connection with this dream world. But at this moment, her weak connection with heaven and earth was completely disrupted by some reincarnation power that did not belong to this heaven and earth. She had just been killed by the immortal Guizhou once. According to the rules of the dream cycle that changed the heaven and earth, the immortal Guizhou should not appear in this place again. However, the reality was that she and Ning Fan appeared in the immortal Guizhou's dream again. I'm dreaming of these two annoying bugs again? How troublesome. I'll just kill them again. The immortal Guizhou was actually speaking. He was just an invisible country, but he could actually speak. At the next moment, the immortal Guizhou killed the Ant Lord and Ning Fan again. It was as if the Ant Lord could not resist it at all. The world disappeared and finally returned to the state of white mist. Ning Fan was reborn in the world of white mist. As soon as he was reborn, he heard the Ant Lord's anger in the world of white mist. You did it. You actually used the power of samsara to completely cut off my control over this world. You're just a little immortal king. How could you possibly do such a thing? It was not a guess but a firm tone. The Ant Lord's tone was no longer as high and mighty as before. She was no longer looking down on all living beings. She was infuriated by Ning Fan. It was the humiliation and anger of a dignified saint who was tricked by an ant. Ant Lord, have you ever been suppressed by the immortal Guizhou? Ning Fan neither admitted nor denied it. He just used the Ant Lord's own words as a counterattack. When the Ant Lord thought that she could suppress Ning Fan with her Saint Realm cultivation base, Ning Fan shattered her fantasy. In terms of cultivation base, even 100 Ning Fans would not be able to defeat the Ant Lord when she was at her peak. However, he could drag the Ant Lord down with him again and again. When the white mist dispersed, the world of dream that appeared in front of them was still the immortal Guizhou. The Ant Lord felt a chill down her spine. She was stunned by Ning Fan's momentum of wanting to perish together with her. Suddenly, she felt a hint of regret. Using the dream samsara to kill Ning Fan did not seem to be a correct decision. However, her connection with this world of dream had already been cut off by Ning Fan. It would not be easy for her to leave this dream anymore. Aren't you afraid that you will be the one to die first if you continue to perish together with me? I'm a Saint Realm cultivator. My soul will never be destroyed. The Ant Lord shouted. Are you really invincible? But why do I hear a hint of fear from your tone? Young man, I don't know how you did it to make the immortal Guizhou appear in this dream time and time again. You don't know how terrifying the immortal Guizhou is at all. Do you think this world is just a dream of mine? Didn't you hear the voice of the immortal Guizhou? He said that he dreamt of you. Do you understand what this means? As expected, Just as the Ant Lord's voice fell, the illusory and formless immortal Guzwa spoke doubtfully again. It's so strange. Why did I dream of these two little insects for 3 consecutive times? An ant and a butterfly are fighting. However, the ant is so small. How can it defeat the butterfly? It's just an idiot. How boring. Let's kill them again. The immortal Guzwa killed Ning Fan and the Ant Lord once again. After that, Ning Fan was reborn in the boundless white mist. He had already died 5 times while the Ant Lord had died 4 times. Ning Fan's sea of consciousness was too strong. Dying 5 times in the dream was like playing a game to him. He was still alive and kicking. However, the Ant Lord was in a miserable state. She was just a scattered soul. Her sea of consciousness was too weak. Not to mention reaching the level of a sage, her sea of consciousness was even weaker than some ancient immortal venerables of a true world. Dying 4 times had greatly damaged the Ant Lord. The strength of her chi was only left with half of what it used to be. Everything was going according to Ning Fan's plan. The only thing that was out of Ning Fan's expectation was the Ant Lord's words and the immortal Guzwa's words. What does the Ant Lord mean? What do you mean by the immortal Guzwa dreamt of me? Isn't this the world of dreams that the Ant Lord and I created together? However, judging from the immortal Guzwa's tone, it sounds like I'm not the one who dreamt of the immortal Guzwa, but the immortal Guzwa dreamt of me. Could it be that the world of dreams that I'm currently in is actually connected to the immortal Guzwa's dream? Ning Fan's heart was filled with hesitation. He faintly felt that it was not a correct decision to mark this dream and return to the immortal Guzwa's image. Even though it could kill the Ant Lord and scatter her soul, it would also trigger other unpredictable dangers. Brat. I admit defeat. How about we make peace for now? Quickly withdraw your samsara power. Don't affect this world of dreams anymore. When the time comes, I will remove the ability of the dream of samsara. When you and I return to the outside world again, we will decide the victor. The Ant Lord was actually admitting defeat. Ning Fan did not answer the Ant Lord, nor did he withdraw that drop of samsara ink. He had already guessed that continuing to dream of the immortal Guzwa would be risky. However, he did not trust the Ant Lord even more. If he withdraws that drop of samsara ink at this moment, the Ant Lord might not keep his promise and remove the ability of the dream of samsara. It was impossible for him to withdraw it. He wanted to continue interfering with this world of dreams and make it develop in a disadvantageous direction for the Ant Lord. Of course, continuing to dream of the immortal Guzwa was also not a wise decision. Thus, he decided to change to another place and perish together with the Ant Lord. The immortal Guzwa had already been used 3 times. It was time to change it. Ning Fan fully activated his Tao of divination. When he looked at the misty world, he seemed to be able to predict many good and bad things. Small fortune, medium fortune, great fortune. Small fortune, medium fortune, great fortune. I'll let the dream evolve in the direction of small fortune. Ning Fan made up his mind. Then, his samsara power began to take effect. The white mist between heaven and earth dispersed once again. This time, the world that appeared was no longer the territory of the immortal Guzwa. The Ant Lord showed herself. This time, she did not sense the terrifying chi of the immortal Guzwa. Just as she was about to heave a sigh of relief, fear filled her beautiful eyes again at the next moment. Even though the world in front of her was not the immortal Guzwa, it was still an extremely dangerous place. Ancestor Li's bright dome world. Are you a madman? How could you control the dream to transform into this place? Do you want to be devoured by the Ni-Ku that the solitary flame sect raised here? Ning Fan's eyes narrowed slightly. The solitary flame sect? This name sounds so familiar. That's right. When he was breaking through to the void renunciation realm, he was almost killed by a withered palm. That withered palm traveled through time and space, and it was incomparably heaven-defying. After all, Ning Fan was in the illusory world of immortal Emperor Zido at that time. Even the Lord of Tribulation could not ignore immortal Emperor Zido's ability and harm the descendants of Zido in the illusory world. However, the owner of that withered palm could do it. It was highly possible that the strength of that person was even slightly higher than the Lord of Tribulation intent. If it wasn't because that withered palm attack was almost completely consumed by the power of immortal Emperor Zido's illusory world, Ning Fan, who was still at the Void Renunciation realm at that time, would certainly not be able to withstand that palm attack, which was suspected to be at the fourth step. Could the owner of that withered palm be the ancestor Li that the Lord Ant mentioned? Dreaming back to the immortal Guizhou was not a wise decision. Dreaming back to this place might be an even more wrong move. The bright dome world was a world with dazzling auroras. There was only day and no night in this place. This world was like a starry sky. However, what was floating in the starry sky were not cultivation planets but suns. Those were real suns. They were things that Ning Fan could never see in the starry sky of the illusory world. Because Ancestor Li did not allow it, even immortal Emperor Zido could not create suns in his dream world. Damn it. My sea of consciousness is almost heavily injured. I can't die anymore. I must leave this place and leave this bright dome world. Fortunately, I'm a light ant and I'm good at escaping techniques of light. This place is full of sunlight. If I use the light to escape, I might have a chance to escape from this place. The Lord Ant turned into a ray of light and blended into the sunlight in the sky. He wanted to hide in the sunlight and escape from this place. Immediately, a mocking laugh resounded in the bright dome world, as if it was disdainful of the Lord Ant's escape. Almost at the same time when the mocking laugh resounded, the disciples of the Solitary Flame sect chanted scriptures endlessly. Turn back, turn back, turn back. From my Tao immeasurable crossing, for illusions and for annihilations, void-treading realm, Solitary Flame sect. Turn back, turn back, turn back. From my Tao immeasurable ancient, I worship the bright dome palm withering, Solitary Flame sect. As soon as the chanting of scriptures sounded, countless black spots suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. Those black spots appeared so abruptly. That kind of extreme darkness seemed to be incompatible with this aurora world. Those black spots sprinkled down like a rainstorm, as if a world of black rain had fallen on this aurora world. As soon as the black rain fell, the Lord Ant immediately let out a miserable shriek. Her figure was forced out by the black rain. Then, the black rain fell on her body and pierced through her body brutally. Then, it turned into black sticks and sealed her cultivation base. Ning Fan only felt that this kind of black stick looked familiar. It seemed to be a method that only a divine being could use. He had once helped someone remove this kind of black stick from their body. I recognize you. You are the ant that Hongjun kept. However, this is not the reason for you to intrude into my dream. You need to pay a price. Suddenly, the voice of an elderly man resounded in the bright dome world. Ning Fan would never forget this voice. The owner of this voice was the supreme existence that attacked him when he was abandoning the void. As soon as the voice sounded, the Lord Ant's face turned pale. She wanted to break free from the seal of the black stick, but how could she do so? Boom! A loud bang resounded. The body of the Lord Ant that was pierced by the black sticks exploded, turning into a rain of blood that filled the sky. She had fallen in her dream once again. However, this time, her fall was different from the previous times. The damage to her sea of consciousness was almost 10 times more than before. In fact, the elderly man had already shown mercy to her. It could be considered as him showing consideration for the friendship between him and Hongjun. The Lord Ant was an ant that Hongjun raised. He could be a little merciful and forgive her for intruding into his dream. However, it seemed like there was no need to be merciful to this butterfly. We meet again. Little fellow, do you still remember what I said before? The matter of exterminating the persistence is a decision made by the 3 realms. The path of exterminating the cultivation of the persistence is not allowed. Last time, I crossed too many reincarnations to kill you. Besides, there was also the power of the purple fighting dipper. Therefore, I gave you a chance to escape. However, this time, you won't be so lucky again. And I could eat this young man. Those who are eaten by you will truly be erased even if they are in the dream. The elderly man seemed to be giving an order to something. At the same time, The greatest sense of danger that he had ever felt in his life fell upon him. He only saw a black creature flickering in the bright dome world. After that, he lost all consciousness. He had been eaten and digested by that mysterious creature. He had fallen again. Dying was a small matter. If he died in his dream, he could always be reborn again. However, what shocked Ning Fan was that he almost couldn't be reborn after dying this time. It was as if there was a supreme force that had almost erased his existence. What kind of power is that? Ning Fan could not figure out anything. If it wasn't because the divine spirit blood in his body began to release its power at the critical moment, his existence might really be erased. At the same time, Ning Fan was afraid that he would never forget Ancestor Li for the rest of his life. The kindness of a meal must be repaid and the grudge must be repaid. He did not have the strength to do so now. Once he has that strength, he would make the solitary flame sect pay the price. What's going on? Why didn't you erase that young man's existence? And Aiku, you rarely fail. I'm very disappointed in you. Ancestor Li said with dissatisfaction. I'm sorry, Master. I can't erase that young man's existence. Just because he's a Jishio? No. He has already grown into a divine spirit. Even though the level of a divine spirit is still low, no one can erase his existence with just a dream. I can't do it. Even if it's you, it's still impossible. If I want to erase his existence, I can only do it face to face. What? This young man has actually become a divine spirit. I knew it. I should have thought of it long ago. Letting a tiger loose for a day will cause trouble for several lifetimes. Luckily, I have already remembered his existence. In the illusory dream world, it's impossible for him to become a true sage. If he wants to become a true sage, he must go to the true world. Once he does, I will eliminate him first. Jishio? Divine spirit? Compared to an existence like me who cultivates both the divine spirit and immortal spirit, he is still just an ant. Even though his existence was not erased, being devoured by that mysterious creature still caused Ning Fan serious injuries. He was fine after dying 5 times in a row. However, his sea of consciousness began to weaken during his 6th death. Fortunately, the weakening of his sea of consciousness was still within a controllable range. The Ant Lord, on the other hand, was in a terrible state. She was truly weak. She was already so weak that she was on the verge of death. Ning Fan was reborn from the white mist. He could feel that the dream of samsara was no longer stable and could collapse at any time. It was the proof that the Ant Lord had become extremely weak. Ning Fan firmly believed that as long as the Ant Lord dies once more in such a state, he would be able to win the battle in this dream. The Ant Lord also knew about this. That was why she was afraid. She wanted to break free from the dream and escape. However, she was already so weak that she could not even break free from the dream. You've lost. The next time the dream opens, it will be the day of your death. Damn it. It seems like I really can't keep this wisp of soul anymore. If that's the case, I won't keep it anymore. I'll give it to you. Don't you want to die together with me? If you like me that much, I'll accompany you forever. Nightmare possession technique. The entire world in the dream suddenly disappeared. In the real world, Ning Fan woke up on the Dao Mountain. As soon as he did so, he saw the soul of the Ant Lord who was sleeping soundly at the side turning into light spots and disappearing. Is she dead? Or did she escape? Wrong guess. I've stayed in your sea of consciousness. After taking a look at your sea of consciousness, I realized that you're actually an ancient divine spirit. Tiske, you've actually obtained the heaven-opening treasure, the god-destroying shield of the ancient country. It was the Ant Lord's sarcastic voice that directly resounded in Ning Fan's sea of consciousness. Only then did Ning Fan realize that there was an ant-like lady in black robes in his sea of consciousness. That was the Ant Lord. She had stayed in Ning Fan's sea of consciousness and was roaming inside it, looking through his memories. How dare you break into my sea of consciousness and look through my memories? Ning Fan's eyes instantly turned scary. He clearly had the upper hand in the battle in the dream realm. However, he was still tricked by the Ant Lord's nightmare possession technique in the end. What kind of ability is this? After the Ant Lord used this technique, why could she actually stay in my sea of consciousness without anyone noticing? Even a divine spirit's sea of consciousness could not resist the invasion of this technique. If this lady takes the opportunity to destroy my sea of consciousness, won't my sea of consciousness directly collapse and I will die? Do you really want to kill me? Unfortunately, you can't do it. Let me briefly explain the function of this technique. Once this technique is activated, no one below the fourth step of Saint D Fire can dispel it. In the future, I will always stay in your sea of consciousness. You won't be able to chase me away or kill me unless you are willing to destroy your own sea of consciousness and become a dead man. As for me, I will become your nightmare. When I am possessing you, all of my cultivation base will be sealed and I won't be able to directly attack your sea of consciousness. The only thing I can do to take revenge on you is to hunt you down and torture you in your dreams after you fall asleep. However, this kind of hunting won't be able to cause you any real harm. It will only make you restless. The nightmare possession technique is not a killing technique. Instead, it is to become the nightmare of the enemy, torturing and destroying the enemy for the rest of their lives. If it isn't someone who has a deep grudge against me, they will never use this kind of technique that will cause both sides to suffer. I don't have a deep grudge against you, but you almost killed this wisp of my soul. In order to survive, I can only hide in your sea of consciousness so that you won't dare to harm me anymore. Your explanation isn't short at all. Besides, I don't believe that you will be so kind as to tell me everything about this technique. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. The reason why I'm telling you so much is because I'm afraid that you will try to kill me recklessly. If you can't kill me, you might damage your sea of consciousness and destroy your spiritual sense. Then I will die together with you. Ning Fan refused to believe her. He was no longer in a hurry to ascend the Dao mountain. Instead, he sat down cross-legged on the ground and displayed all kinds of techniques, trying to chase the Ant Lord out of his sea of consciousness. Perhaps the Ant Lord did not completely reveal the details of the nightmare possession technique. However, she did not lie about one thing. Once this technique is possessed, no one other than those at the fourth step would be able to remove it. Even the Ant Lord herself could not remove this technique. This was the highest life-saving technique that the Ant Lord's master, Patriarch Hongjun, had taught her. How was she hiding in Ning Fan's sea of consciousness? That was just a nice way of putting it. Clearly, she was imprisoned in his sea of consciousness for the rest of her life. She would never be able to walk out of his sea of consciousness. Fortunately, compared to losing her soul and dying, she could still accept the result of being temporarily imprisoned in Ning Fan's sea of consciousness. What if Ning Fan goes to the true world one day? When Ning Fan goes to the true world, her master, Patriarch Hongjun, would certainly not ignore her. He would certainly save her. As long as she can endure until then, she would still have the hope of surviving. I know what you are thinking about. You have possessed my sea of consciousness. I can see all your thoughts somehow. It seems like this is also one of the side effects of the nightmare possession technique. You wish that your master will come and save you after I go to the true world one day. However, you have forgotten one thing. Why do I have to go to the true world in this life? I am living a very happy life in the illusory dream world created by immortal sovereign Zido. There are people I care about here and it is very safe. However, the true world is different. I have offended many fourth-step immortal sovereigns before I even go to the true world. Ancestor Li will not let me go. Your master will not let me go either because of you. Perhaps the Tai Tsong Jieling won't either. Your way of thinking is really dangerous. Don't you plan to go to the true world? Don't you know that you must go to the true world in order to become a sage? Even the other sages in the illusory dream world have to go to the true world when they become a sage. They will only return to their respective illusory dream worlds after they become a sage. Besides, do you really think that Zido's illusory dream world is really safe? The people of the ancient desolate immortal domain have been eyeing this place for a long time. They have even attacked this place before. The fact that the gods, demons and devils here have lost their soul blood is the masterpiece of the ancient desolate immortal domain. In this illusory dream world of Zido, there is one that is hibernating. When it eats, all of you descendants of Zido will. Why are you stuttering? It's not that I am stuttering. It's just that your cultivation base is not high enough. The part that you can't hear is affected by the power that Zido left in this illusory dream world. That's why you can't hear it. This is called not being able to speak. Don't you understand this? Not being able to speak, huh? Ning Fan frowned. Then he relaxed his brows. He was not interested in the Lord Ant's explanation at all. The only thing he was interested in was how to get the Lord Ant out of his sea of consciousness and kill him. Unfortunately, none of his methods could be put to use. It seems like I can only think of a way later. Perhaps Senior Omniscient would have a way. Or perhaps I can use the ancient country trading formation to buy some items that can cleanse my sea of consciousness. Before that, it seems like I can only temporarily endure the fact that the Lord Ant is living in my sea of consciousness. I will find a way to kill you sooner or later. After Ning Fan said coldly, he no longer cared about the Lord Ant in his sea of consciousness. He was in a very bad mood right now. I will wait for that day. But before that, you'd better endure this consort's wrath. You're just a mere ant. How dare you force me into a corner and hide in your sea of consciousness? You will regret it. In the coming days, as long as you fall asleep, I will dazzle you in your dreams and ravage you. I want to kill you 10,000 times, 1,000,000 times and 100,000,000 times. Don't be too arrogant. Be quiet. Ning Fan was enraged. In his anger, he directly activated the power of the bewitching technique. Not being able to get the Lord Ant out of his sea of consciousness was one thing. Whether he would be bullied by this woman was another matter. The price that the Lord Ant had to pay for using the nightmare possession was extremely huge. The biggest price was that she would not have any cultivation base during the period of possession. What did it mean? It meant that she could not resist Ning Fan's bewitching technique at all. She dared to enter Ning Fan's body and seal her cultivation base. Moreover, she was even so arrogant. Was there something wrong with her brain? Damn it. You actually know such a profound bewitching technique. Yin-Yang transformation, reverse relic. You actually have such a technique? Shameless thief. I am a dignified saint. How dare you humiliate me like this? I will kill you. I can't take it anymore. It's so uncomfortable. When you went through my memories, didn't you notice that I know the bewitching technique? Ning Fan sneered. I didn't look carefully. The Lord Ant had a mental breakdown. If it was just an ordinary grade bewitching technique, she would not be afraid. After all, she was the soul of a saint. Even if her Tao heart was broken, it was still at the level of a saint. It would not be easily affected by the bewitching technique. However, Ning Fan's bewitching technique was the combination of two great masters, Ancient Chaos and Shizihua. Under the influence of Ning Fan's bewitching technique, she could no longer endure it. She comforted herself in Ning Fan's sea of consciousness. If news of her comforting herself in front of a strange man spreads to the true world, not only would she lose all her face, she would also become the shame of her Hongjun's sacred sect. Tell me, if I go to the true world one day and record some of your actions into a jade slip and send a copy to each of the ancient sacred sects, will your Hongjun's sacred sect lose all its face and become the shame of the true world? Ning Fan revealed a devilish smile. How dare you? The Lord Ant gritted her teeth in hatred. However, she was really afraid. She was afraid of death, but she was even more afraid of her sect being humiliated. Hongjun was her master and her faith. If her sect was to be humiliated because of this, she would rather be killed by Ning Fan. She regretted it. She was afraid. Ning Fan had seen her naked body, which no one had the chance to feast their eyes on in countless reincarnations. Moreover, it was even like watching a performance. She wanted to commit suicide. However, once he possessed her body, she could not even commit suicide. Scum like you, why don't you just die? The Lord Ant said with hatred. If it wasn't because of your intention to harm me, how would I end up in such a situation? If you don't want to continue being humiliated, behave yourself. Get your identity straight. Right now, you are a prisoner in my sea of consciousness. How dare you say that I am a prisoner? You are courting death. Humph. Ning Fan doubled the power of his bewitching technique. The Lord Ant became even more embarrassed. Finally, she became obedient. She understood that she was completely no match for Ning Fan's bewitching technique this time. She had to compromise a little in order to save her face. However, it was impossible for her to swallow her anger. When this brat falls asleep. As long as he falls asleep, I will hunt him in his dreams for 10,000 times or even 1,000,000 times. From today onwards, this brat can forget about having a good dream. The body possession technique revealed all of the Lord Ant's thoughts to Ning Fan. Of course, Ning Fan knew that the Lord Ant wanted to take revenge on him. However, he also wanted to kill the Lord Ant. At this moment, even though the two of them had merged into one, this kind of union was like enemies meeting each other and their eyes were filled with hatred. Each of them wanted to kill the other. Forget it. Let's ascend the Dao mountain to obtain merits first. In order to remove Little Mud's curse, I have to bear the curse of the Lord Ant. Should I say that this is also a kind of karma? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.